Good morning. No, good afternoon, everybody. We're streaming at 1 p.m. instead of 10 a.m. because I'm almost done with my day job, but I have a few more days on the schedule. This is the Oskar Quentin debate show where I talk to people on TikTok Live about their political beliefs. Usually things to do with Trump. I allow other topics kind of at my own discretion. Lately been doing plenty of battle with the Marxists, but I haven't found one that's got a good plan yet, so I don't know. Try not to spend too much time on that. All right, let's make sure that we're good and live on YouTube. There we go. Hello, William. We are live on YouTube. Fantastic. Oh my goodness, and we're starting the show. We're going to hit the ground running. We're going to talk to Average Guy, who has called in before, recently. But of course, I don't remember which one he is. Hello, Average Guy. How old are you?
Good afternoon. 26.
26. Remind me, if you can, what we talked about recently, because I know that you and I have talked in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I had to cut. I freaking had to leave early. I was only on here for like 2 minutes, but I was talking. We're starting to talk about how we have some pretty serious legislation that needs to be passed, referring to the SAVE Act.
Okay, you want to pick up there? You want to talk about the SAVE Act?
Sure. I mean, so the gist is, I think it's super important for us to protect voting in this country, ensure that the people voting are actually those that are entitled to vote. The SAVE Act is the best way to do that, by verifying citizenship at the point of registration.
Okay. Why do you think it's important to check for citizenship at the point of applying to register to vote? Because that's what the SAVE Act does. It has nothing to do with the point of registration, because we already check for citizenship during the registration process, because the government happens to know who's a citizen and who isn't. Which is
not with documentary proof, though. That's the whole gist. That's the whole reason.
Yeah, that is the lie that is being told by Republicans, that for some reason, if you can prove who you are to the government, that will prove to them if you're a citizen, because the government knows who the citizens are. You do have to prove your citizenship if you're proving it to somebody else, like if you're applying for a bank account or something, because that's a private entity. But there's no good reason to require people to have proof of citizenship just to apply when they're applying to an organization, the U.S. government, that knows if they're a citizen or not. They just have to prove who they are.
Wait, so you're saying we should repeal these types of requirements on things like Medicaid?
I am not educated about the application processes for those. I think you've maybe called in and brought up that concern before, and I am just going to be completely honest and say I don't know about those processes. I haven't gotten myself educated on them in the ways I have with voting registration to respond to this political movement around the SAVE Act and other attempts to disenfranchise voters in the midterms. But again, it's a different system. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
What you're basically advocating for is, you're saying that requiring proof of documentary proof of citizenship is not a valid way of verifying your entitlement to whether it's voting or social services. So if we shouldn't have it in voting, then you would have to agree that we shouldn't have it for social services.
What I have to do is insist that you answered my point, which is that the government knows who the citizens are. So if you can prove who you are to the government doesn't need to see proof that you're a citizen. They can just check.
Yeah, so we should get rid of the requirement for Medicaid.
Perhaps. I'm not educated on how that system works.
You know why they won't do that?
I don't know.
Because they brought this up on the Senate floor when they debated the SAVE Act. The reason they would never do that is because it would subject that Medicaid to a far higher risk of fraud, because it'd make it much easier for people to gain access to these benefits without being verified that they're entitled to them. And it's crazy that even Democrats were acknowledging that argument for Medicaid, because there's trillions of dollars attached to it, but they won't acknowledge that argument for voting.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to trust what you have to say about it, because you are just continuing to address like the primary issue here. And I'm not going to trust you, bro, about the way that this argument applies to Medicaid. I'm just going to continue to be agnostic about a thing I don't understand.
What do you have to trust me on? You don't have to trust me on anything. I'm just saying that for your logic,
I would have to trust you that the application process for Medicaid is a good analog in this case, and I just don't know that it is. I'm not familiar with what's involved with eligibility.
Okay, well then
Medicaid.
take out Medicaid and put in any program that requires documentary proof of citizenship. Your argument is that is a worthless thing to do.
The reason, okay, here's a reason. I'm just speculating because I'm not educated, but here's how my brain works. I think potentially a service that pays people and gives them like actual benefits, because Medicaid is for healthcare, like there's like a tangible thing that you get. There's an incentive for people to defraud those sorts of programs. One of the things that I need to see in order to say that a solution is an important and good one is that a real problem is being addressed. And even like the Heritage Foundation which is super duper right leaning, has done studies on voter fraud, and we're just not finding the voter fraud. And what we do know is that these processes have pros and cons. Like you might reduce the already like negligibly small amount of voter fraud by changing the process a little bit. But if you disenfranchise millions of people while doing that, that is on net very bad for people's voting rights.
Whoa, hold on. You said that there's an incentive for defrauding Medicaid, but there's not an incentive for defrauding our federal elections.
The concern that Republicans have is that
there's a huge incentive.
No, there isn't, because the value of a single vote.
There's no incentive in determining who runs our country.
The incentive of turning one vote is so small compared to the size of the election that the benefit of defrauding the
argument is that there's a loophole that millions of people could take advantage of to turn the tides in an election.
By your reasoning, if I stole a penny from the bank, you would label me like a bank robber and put me on the FBI's top most wanted
50
list.
years in prison. 50 years in prison. Why?
You're not going to address the fact that you're talking about a minuscule, negligible amount of voter fraud, and then the solution to it.
We don't know. We've
You're
argued,
interrupting me. I'm trying to get you to answer a line of questioning, and you're just giving me these non-answers. There's a minuscule amount of voter fraud. Even right-leaning analysts find that the number of like illegal votes in a presidential election of 150 million odd voters is something like a 2, 3, or 4-digit number. It's genuinely minuscule. The statistical likelihood of it affecting the outcome of any election in any way is truly minuscule. But we know that if the SAVE Act passes, many, many people are going to be disenfranchised for reasons I've spent a lot of time on this show talking about. So it's clear to look at this and go, the net benefit to the security of our elections will be bad because voter disenfranchisement in the millions potentially is a way bigger problem than a literal handful of votes here or there.
Okay, so the first thing you said is it's very rare. Well, that's not the argument being made. Everyone agrees that the number of caught instances of people committing voter fraud is very small. The argument is, if you follow our politicians that talk about this, the argument being made is that it's extremely hard to catch them. So you're arguing but apples to oranges.
Are you arguing that illegal immigrants are voting en masse?
I'm arguing that we don't know. It's hard to tell, and that's a factual statement proven by multiple government agencies. That's why the processes that we put in place for voting are not the same processes we'll put in place to secure things like Medicaid, Medicare.
Talking in a circle, dude. Like, you've literally called in and we've had this exact conversation before. I don't know if you call into a lot of lives and you don't remember trying all these same things on me again, but I'm just giving you the same answers. And I am going to move on if it's just the same conversation in a circle. I know I do that a lot on this show. I think we have. Can one of the people who watches the show a lot tell me what episode it was in?
You said something interesting as well. The disenfranchisement. You don't care at all about disenfranchising people from certain rights or liberties. We do it all the time. If you commit a felony, we'll disenfranchise you from voting. If we'll disenfranchise people
I personally don't think a firearm. I personally don't think we should disenfranchise felons from voting. This is just my own personal belief on that particular one.
Well, you will agree that you'll disenfranchise someone from their Second Amendment if they don't have a state-issued ID to prove their citizenship.
I recognize that there are consequences for doing crimes, and one of those consequences is sometimes that you have rights taken away by the government. Like, that happens to you if you go to prison.
But that happens to anyone, whether they commit a crime or not. If you don't have an ID, you're not going to be able to purchase a firearm from a arms dealer. So you can't tell me unless you're going to advocate for removing that requirement from the Second Amendment.
In this call responded to why I used banks as example as my example instead of firearms dealers, but I already responded because I predicted the point you were going to make about requiring documentation for private parties like banks or firearms distributors who aren't the government, who don't have all your records, who need to be given a lot of proof to show that you are an eligible purchaser
you'll disenfranchise
of a firearm.
people from all sorts of things. like the government will disenfranchise you from purchasing a home, even renting an apartment, or applying for fast food.
How is any of this an argument in favor of voter disenfranchisement? Because you are arguing in favor of voter disenfranchisement.
You're arguing that adding this requirement will disenfranchise voters. We make that decision for a whole plethora of things in America in order to secure those rights and liberties.
Yeah, and each one of those things is its own complicated rat's nest of issues that we have to meet out when we decide. We have to weigh the pros and cons of balancing people's rights. Because yes, it's bad.
We can't do that with voting, right?
We are doing that with voting, and you are ignoring that the amount of fraudulent votes is minuscule. The state voter rolls show that. States have their own processes for assessing the security of their elections as described in the Constitution. You were just ignoring all of that and ignoring the big con of disenfranchising millions of people. Because honestly, I'm just going to do this, something that I do on this show often, which is that based on your tone and the way that you talk about it, I'm just going to give you a completely unsubstantiated accusation about you. I think that you know that I'm right. I think that you just are a bad person and you want those voters disenfranchised, and that's why you're arguing in the way that you are.
No,
I don't believe you.
I think that it's actually the opposite. I think it's disenfranchising people by allowing this loophole to continue, where you have states like California handing out driver's license, and that gives them a loophole to sign up to be on the voter rolls for our federal elections. You disenfranchise real voters, and you don't even realize it. You probably won't even acknowledge it. You'll probably try to skip to another topic.
I've already answered all of this, not just today, but literally a different day.
I just predicted that you wouldn't acknowledge disenfranchising real voters by having the loophole still in place.
Who? How? Explain yourself.
Every time someone that is not a verified citizen votes in our elections, that's disenfranchising a real voter, because that cancels out their vote. The true
voter fraud is bad. So you think we should disenfranchise millions of people to stop potentially 1,000 people from being disenfranchised? That is what I'm saying.
It's only 1,000.
We do.
No, you don't. And you refuse to acknowledge that point as well, that it's insanely hard to tell if the people on our voter rolls are citizens or not, because we have outdated systems where they're trying to connect to multiple databases. They've complained about this multiple times. Auditors have written reports on this that you won't acknowledge that either. I guarantee you won't say anything about that.
Let's see the report. Bring one to me, because I mentioned the Heritage
Foundation. In Congress. They were just arguing it in Congress.
No, you keep calling into my show. I have sources from both the left and right about what I'm saying, and you've called in multiple times. How about you try again next time with some resources? You say they talk about it on the House floor. Who? What lawmaker? Where? Show me. Is it going to be a Republican screaming their head off about the same nonsense you're saying when we just don't have evidence that the problem you're concerned about is even happening?
Yeah, and you want to be blind to that. That's your defense. Your defense is, we weren't able to find fraud, therefore fraud wasn't happening.
The discrepancies would show up on the state voter rolls. They have their own internal investigations to address these things, and that's where the data comes from. So, you just don't understand the processes that states use to secure their elections. It is complicated.
But my problem with their processes is it's typically trusting your word under the threat of perjury. And that we would never accept that level of security for anything that had dollars attached to it. The only reason we accept that risk is because voting is free, and people don't see it as serious as protecting something like Medicaid.
Yeah, and even if we were going to talk about the dollar value motivation, even to somebody who wanted to pay to get Trump elected or something like that, the dollar value of an individual vote, even in a swing state, is still very low because of how many.
I'm not talking about the dollar value. I'm talking about the reason that we secure Medicaid and not our elections.
You just brought it. Then why did you bring up money and then interrupt me for talking about money?
Because Medicaid can be defrauded for billions of dollars. Our voting system isn't like billions of dollars that someone can put into their pocket. It's political power.
It absolutely is. Trump has increased his net worth by billions of dollars while president. So what you just said is ridiculous.
You don't get what I'm saying by that? Okay, if someone that's voting is not going to make money from voting. Someone that applies to Medicaid is going to receive millions of dollars of benefits.
My source today on how rare voter fraud is literally the Heritage Foundation, an organization that I hate, that is just too honest about their research to lie through their teeth about the rate of voter fraud. I'm just going to insist that you provide me a source for the things that you're saying.
A source for what exactly?
Literally anything that you have claimed on this episode.
you want to source that other social services use a higher level of security standards than our voting system?
No. I specifically would love to know. You mentioned lawmakers talking on the House floor. I'd love to see that. But I am going to move on because we're talking in circles. We're saying the same things over and over again. You and I have literally had this.
You're not acknowledging anything I'm saying. You're just saying, "Oh, I already acknowledged this," and we're going in circles.
I'm only willing to acknowledge each of these things once or twice. And if you keep saying them, I will start refusing to acknowledge them. Yeah.
Okay, can you answer one question? Why?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know the question.
You're probably going to try to weasel your way out of it. It's fine. Why do we require documentary proof of citizenship for social services and not voting?
Okay, I already answered that, I think, twice today. So we're going to move on from Average Guy. And he might be banned from the show for just calling in and having the same conversation with me over and over again. Just because you don't like how the conversation goes with me doesn't mean that you can just call in and try the same exact thing again. It's not really good for the show. Everybody should go to the link tree in my bio and support me and stuff because this is my full-time job. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're going to talk to Evan the Rose. And hopefully they're not going to just regurgitate the same 3 arguments on a loop again and then call in the next day and do the same thing again. Evan the Rose, how old are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm 23 years old. What's going on? First time on here.
Well, thanks for calling in. Are you a Trump supporter?
No way. Do you see my profile picture?
I don't. It's a little small, but I am just looking for Trump supporters. If you want to have a more friendly chat or about something else, you can call in after 11:30 Central Standard Time, which is about 75 minutes from now. I take friendly calls towards the end, but we are just looking for debates for the meat of the show here. So we're going to talk to Smokey the Bear. Thanks for the fireworks, Squish Love. Smokey the Bear. How old are you? Are you there?
I'm 51. I live in Vegas.
51 and you live in Vegas. Vicky wanted to say howdy for $7 on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Vicky. Okay, you support Trump?
I don't support Trump or Democrats' messaging at the moment because I think we're all confused, like they've made us.
I don't have another caller in the queue, so I'll hear you out. Okay. But I guess what I want to say is
I'm only here to help, so don't take it negatively. I apologize.
That's fine. It's okay. I mean, I just generally I keep it to Trump supporters if I have anybody in the queue, but I don't. So I'll talk to you for a moment. I guess it's the same thing I have to say to all the libertarians and communists and Leninists and Marxists that call in all the different labels. They all have this well, the Democrats are bad too stance, which is great. But I just don't think it's very helpful. What are you suggesting we do if both sides are bad?
Oh, I agree. But saying this side's bad and that side's bad and all fighting against each other with no structural knowledge, we need to ask better questions. We've gone so far astray in the system.
But I have an audience of about. Okay. Just to be totally clear. I'm doing this thing where I talk to people about politics. Right now, I get about 20 million views a month across 4 platforms, and I have 100,000 followers in a bunch of different places. And it's 3 million unique accounts on Instagram. I forget how many unique accounts it is on Facebook. So to those people, hey, here's your moment. What's the plan? What should they do in November?
Ask better questions. And I'll give you the exact example. When you talk about the Save American Voters Act, ask, what are American voters? What are American citizens? What's America 1776? What are gender rights? Why do corporations have rights of a person and people?
So when people go to the polling
I'm answering the question.
They should just ask those questions instead of voting?
Ask better questions before you hire the people.
But
if I were to ask you how many articles and amendments are in the Constitution, your answer would be?
Articles and amendments, what is it, 27 amendments, 28 maybe? I don't know. I think that's...
I don't know. This is your job, sir. How many articles and amendments in the politics of what you discuss, the book?
Okay, again...
You don't know. Again, you're the problem.
You can
Have
ask...
a great day, sir.
You're going to leave on that?
If you don't know the Constitution, you can't talk politics. You're a grifter of emotions.
How many House seats are there? Oh, I was going to ask him specific questions until he didn't know the answer of one. Yeah, what is it? 27, 28 amendments? Why is that important to understand what the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 10th, 14th amendments say, which are the ones that are primarily under attack by the president? The articles, I understand. I have some really good knowledge about some particular articles relating to how the government is structured and things that the president is doing that's violating those articles. But if you're just going to ask me a specific detail like that and then declare the win and move on, it's not a productive conversation. So remember, everybody, when you go to the polls in November, remember to ask a bunch of douchey questions instead of voting. That'll fix it, apparently. I'd love for that guy to come back and try again. I think he just realized his bullshit wasn't going to work on me and he ran. Thanks, Jem, for the $5 on YouTube Super Chat. I appreciate you so much. And thank you, Katie, for also $5 on YouTube Super Chat. She says, thanks for doing this. You're making a difference, even if it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't always feel like it, but it often feels like it, and I really appreciate that. We're going to talk to Zachariah. I think that's how that username is supposed to be interpreted, and we're going to see.
Hello?
Hello, how old are you?
I'm 19.
What year were you born?
2009.
2000 and... Does that work? No. That
Yeah, some states. Some states.
No, I don't think that
I just have a question.
Wait,
Why
no,
do
it
you have
does. I did the
300
math wrong.
viewers?
Sorry, I was distracted. Sorry, what'd you say?
Why do you have 300 viewers and only one person requesting? Are you view-botting or something?
I have scared away all of the debaters on TikTok, but it doesn't add
real?
up. So you got to go. So everybody get double tapping away on the screen so we can talk to new person. My brain just like turned off for a second there. I was like trying to do math and I was like, wait, doesn't that make you like 25 or something? Nope, sure doesn't. Forgot what year it was for a moment. Oscar's tired. Yeah, he's gone, guys. Chill out in the chat. He's gone. But yeah, do get double tapping away on the screen on TikTok because that's how we'll get new viewers in here. I will admit, I get a lot of accusations about like view botting and stuff like that, and I honestly just think it's because most people, it takes them years to achieve the sort of following that I have. My numbers are very out of whack. Like my concurrent viewers right now on TikTok is 320, which is a lot if you only have 10,000 followers on TikTok, which is what I do. 53 on YouTube's pretty not that crazy, but like. Yeah, I mean, people accuse me all the time of view botting, but I think I'm actually just doing a good enough job at this that like it's working that quickly. I'll take a look at the other pay platforms to see if I have anybody else to thank. Oh, I think there was somebody from the other day I forgot to thank. Yeah, Brian. Brian sent me $12 on Venmo. What did he say? Let's see. Brian, you get dead air while I try to pull up your message. He just says appreciate you. Well, I appreciate you too, Brian. I really do appreciate you. And Kate sent $25 on Cash App. I don't think that got mentioned on yesterday's show. If it did, she gets the double shout out because Kate sends a lot of Cash Apps. W's in the chat for Kate and for Brian for helping support the show. Well, here we are with dead air because there's nobody in the request queue. I have scared them all away. I mean, it's like Smokey the Bear, right? Like I don't. Like he's just going to refuse to talk to me because I didn't know off the top of my head exactly how many articles are in the Constitution. Let's actually just check really quick so that I can answer that correctly next time. I do have the Constitution bookmarked. Let's see. Celebrating. Yeah, let's go away with that. Pop. Let's see. Is it 10? No, 7. There we go. Okay. Like there it is. Now I know. We spent a lot more time on the amendments than the Constitution, and I was right. There are 27 amendments. 27th is the most recent one. That was the one about president not overstaying his term. 2 terms, right? Look at that. Somebody asked me a question I didn't know the answer to, so I'm just going to look it up quick. So next time maybe next time Smokey the Bear will stay because I'll have learned the answers to a couple of his questions. But like, It is such a disingenuous tactic to just ask somebody an arbitrary piece of trivia about something. Like, for example, in what year was our constitutional convention where we wrote the Constitution? It was 1789. But if somebody said, I don't know, a few years after the Revolutionary War, I'd be like, yeah, close enough. Like that'd be, like if you don't have to know the number to understand the history. Flip the whole voter fraud argument on them. If they think 12 cases of fraud should mean millions lose access to voting, maybe a few instances of gun violence should mean everyone loses guns, says Sack Boss on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Like, you could talk about gun violence, you could talk about how many crimes the president has committed, you could talk about how we should shut the banks down because people defraud them. Like, it's not reasoned thinking. It is just made up, regurgitated talking points. Somebody's accusing Smokey the Bear of selling constitutions. I wouldn't be surprised. Stretch is in the chat talking about peanut butter again. Dude, you want to get in the queue? We can talk again. There's nobody else here. Stretch brought up bestiality in a quick hurry when I made a weird example about peanut butter. He immediately got excited about the idea of somebody's dog licking peanut butter off of them. Gross. Not cool. Oh man, what's going on in the news? Still Delaney Hall, right? we're going to talk about if they're so concerned about the lack of proof of how many voter fraudsters there are. It's like there are people who are on a hunger strike at Delaney Hall right now because they say that there's maggots in the food. And I had a caller yesterday who said that because I didn't have photographs of the maggots in the food, it isn't happening. But we have proof that lawmakers are being denied access to those facilities to inspect them, which is actual proof of wrongdoing happening. Could that voter fraud argument be used there because they're not showing us the evidence of what's going on in these detention facilities? Shouldn't we just assume that it's really, really, really bad, in addition to the fact that the lawyers of the people who are being detained there also say that it's really, really, really bad, that the ACLU chapter in New Jersey say that what's going on there is really, really, really bad? Yeah, I don't know. Good, we can save some money. Michael, what are you talking about? If it's oppositional, Colin says, can I request the floor's open right now. If somebody wants to hop up and chat, I will let you, but I'm going to give precedent to additional callers because the friendly calls are not super good for the live stream, unfortunately. I kind of enjoy sitting around and talking about this stuff with friendlies. It's way less emotionally taxing than talking to rapists and pedophile protectors and stuff like I do all day, but it's not super good for the show. But feel free to hop in the request queue because maybe it'll be a friendlier show than normal. But I'll just keep taking a look at the chat for now. They might shut our airport down too. Ooh, Sack, what are you talking about in the YouTube chat? Milk Girl worked for the Board of Elections in New York City, and we made them give us their address and such. Yeah, I mean, the states have their own processes for securing their elections. That's how it's described in the Constitution. But Colin doesn't have a request icon. Let's see if I can get him invited. Colin, invite. Yeah, maybe it's just that you're not seeing. It's right down here to the right of the chat when there isn't a caller, and it's a much smaller button, which is backwards. You'd think it should be a bigger button if there isn't a caller. But anyway, how old are you?
I'm 52.
52. Are you a Trump supporter?
No, not at all.
Okay, well, you can have the floor. There's no one else here. What's up?
Yeah, I called yesterday briefly, like 10 seconds, and I just wanted to expound a little bit on what I was trying to say.
Sure. Remind me. We had a couple of those yesterday. I don't remember which one you are.
Well, there was some callers that were talking about how to talk to opposition and frustrated with that, and I experienced that a lot. Most of my friends and family are conservative. Well, I shouldn't say most. There's a few on either of those that aren't, but I'm frustrated. I bought a condo in Savage. I used to live in Minneapolis, and I was surrounded by like-minded people, and now I'm kind of surrounded by the opposite, and I struggle with that. But I find that when I'm talking to a Trump supporter or just a conservative, I can spit facts at them all I want, and it just goes right over their head. But the one success I've had is with my stepdad, because he's really hardcore, like calls himself a Trump supporter still at this point, but doesn't really talk a whole lot about it like he used to, because I think he knows that things are getting a little bit to the point where he doesn't really have a whole lot of ground to stand on. But anyway, I've had arguments with him, and the one thing that I've been able to do is appeal to him as a Christian. He's a Christian, and I try to point out that Jesus, if you are a Christian and you're going to go off of the teachings of Christ, you really need to be more of a humanitarian and give to the poor and forgive people for this and that.
Yeah, I mean, and the frustration I have about those super, like, if you're a Christian, I'm not religious, so it's to me not really the.
I'm not either. I'm not.
But I've done the same thing on the show where I've pointed out, like, if you support the teachings of Jesus, you got to be really upset about what ICE is doing in order to be consistent. But there's those things where, like, you can get somebody totally dead to rights where it's like, here's Trump saying a bad thing that you yourself a moment ago said that it would be really bad if he said it. Here's footage of him saying it because I lied to you and said Joe Biden said it. But now that you know that it's Trump that said it, you're defending it. You can catch people in these things, and they're like goldfish. They have amnesia about it. It just goes away the moment the conversation is over, which is just one of the intellectually dishonest things that happens, which is wildly frustrating. For what I have to do, like I at this point where I can sometimes I remember the caller well enough to say, no, dude, we went through this 2 weeks ago. Like, you admitted you were wrong on this 2 weeks ago. Now you're calling back in with the same bad talking point because you forgot that I'm the one who talked you into a corner enough on it that you admitted you were wrong about it. And it just, that's part of what we're putting on display by running shows like this, us debate hosts, is that these people are just fucking dishonest at the end of the day. There's no honest position that supports Trump. Well, anyway. But I'll give you another moment if you have something else, but I do have a regular caller in the chat.
Yeah, I just, it's frustrating. Like I try to do what you're talking about and they just say it's AI or fake news. And I don't have a platform where I can expound on it usually. And it's just frustrating, but yeah, I guess that's it. Appreciate
your time. I'm going to move on to RC is next. So pucker up, everyone. It's about to get hateful up in here. Do go to the link tree in my bio and support me by following me on the other platforms. Doesn't cost you a dime. If you have a dime that you want to spare, you can send it to my Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon so I can pay my bills. That's what happens with the money that you guys send me. I give it to the people who I owe my bills to, my landlords and stuff. Anyway, we're going to talk to RC, who's going to remind me how old he is, and then we're going to hear what he wants to talk about today.
Hello?
Hey, remind me how old you are, RC?
29.
What are we talking about today?
So you're a democratic socialist, right?
I kind of object to the blanket use of the labels just because so many people disagree about what a democratic socialist is that I really just prefer to talk about specific ideologies. But generally, yeah, in the American political sense, not the old school philosophical sense where a democratic socialist is something a little bit different. In the old school philosophical sense, I'm a social democrat, which is different.
But you self-label as a democratic socialist.
You just asked me how I self-label, and I answered.
Okay. Is it different from socialism?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
I'm not interested in sitting here and describing the difference between socialism and democratic socialism. Like I said, I'd much rather actually talk about policies and things that I want to have happen in the country.
Okay, well, I heard you say then, I figured you wouldn't answer that question. I heard you say that. I'll say this specifically. Socialists want to get rid of capitalism completely. I don't think that's a reasonable thing to try to do anytime, maybe during my lifetime in America. Maybe when I'm really old. Maybe I'll live to be 100 or something. We can start talking about that. But no, I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's practical. I don't think that's a good approach for making life better for people right now, which is why I'm a democratic socialist or a social democrat, as the philosophers would refer to me. Which just means that I think that there's a bunch of domains in which we should be more socialist, but capitalism can kind of, with some regulation and restrictions, can keep going on for now. And you want the nation to socialize certain programs?
Well, we already do that. We're always adding more programs that we've socialized. I just have a list of ones that I want to also socialize.
So you just want more national socialism?
Are you trying to trick me into saying I want to be a Nazi?
Well, you want the nation to socialize.
Well, I also have democratic values. Does that make me the sort of dictator that we have in North Korea because they call themselves the Democratic People's Republic of Korea? Oh no, we live in a Democratic People's Republic. Does that make us a dictator? I'm not interested in the word games, dude. I recognize that the Nazis did some socialist things in the early 30s what the Nazis did was bad. I don't want what the Nazis did. I'm very worried about the great many things that the opposition to my political cause is doing that is actually the bad stuff that the Nazis did. I'm way more concerned about that.
Okay. So I heard you say to the last guest, and I guess this would kind of segue into some of those issues you have with my side. You said that followers of Christ would be against ICE if they were following the teachings of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Christ also taught to obey your slave master. So he respected authority. These people that are kicking ICE vehicles and threatening them are not respecting authority. So they're in direct opposition to Christ's teaching.
I mean, if you think if the analogy here is that ICE is the slave owners and we, the people, are enslaved, then I would say that you're making a really good argument for revolting against them. And I'm not religious, and I think the Bible's horrible and inconsistent in those ways.
No, what I'm saying is that Jesus taught to respect authority. Not all authority is a slave master. So
wasn't Jesus executed for breaking the law?
So let's listen to what I'm saying. Jesus told us to respect my show.
I'm going to insist that you answer my question. True or false? Was Jesus killed for breaking the law?
The Jewish Pharisaical law, yes. Not the Roman law.
Oh, okay. So you think that the law of America is more important than the sorts of laws that Jesus wanted us to follow, like the rules of God.
Well, Jesus told us to follow the authority of the state. That's why you pay to Caesar what is Caesar's, and you also pay to God what is God's.
Dude, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in that shit. I think the Bible.
Then why did you bring it up?
Because I think that modern Christians who espouse the teachings that like modern what's the word? Non-orthodox approaches to Christianity, like they tend to espouse the better teachings of the Bible, like things like love thy neighbor and let the foreigner within thy land like live as anybody else, like stuff like that. It's inconsistent to hate immigrants if you preach that stuff. I do just think being a Christian at all is inconsistent unless you're like stoning gay people and stuff, like all that horrible stuff that the Bible wants.
That's not New Testament. That never happened in the New Testament. That's Jewish. That's Old Testament.
Okay. Again, this isn't really a religion debate.
Well, then don't speak on a subject you don't know about then. You brought it up to the last guest. You don't know about the subject, so keep it out of your mouth then.
Modern Christians believe that you should love thy neighbor and that you should treat the foreigner who resides in your land as you would any other person. Those are things that they still teach and talk about. Those are things that preachers still preach about. So I point out the inconsistency in those things, but in general, I think that religious beefs are inconsistent. So are we attacking other people or me? Because you said that we should obey ICE agents just like there are slave owners. I want to go back to that. Can we go back to that?
No. I said that Jesus taught to respect authority, but not all authority are slave masters. There's different types of authority.
But why didn't Jesus respect the authority that he was executed for defying?
He respected the authority of the law, and he went along with being persecuted. And he even told Peter, don't fight against the Roman soldiers that are taking me away, because he respected authority. You don't know about the Bible, so keep it out of your mouth. How about we can agree to that? You've already admitted you don't understand the Bible. You don't know it. You don't read it.
I don't think it's possible to understand the Bible because it's inconsistent.
Okay, well, you haven't read it. Jesus did respect authority. He allowed the Roman officers to take him away, even though he was God, and he told his disciples to not fight against the soldiers.
I'm not religious, and I don't believe that the teachings of the Bible are important. I point out.
Okay, then don't bring it up.
I do bring it up to people who believe in it because I point out the inconsistent things that people believe that call into my show. But you're talking. But
you thought that was an inconsistency. You thought that it was an inconsistency, but I pointed out that Jesus was actually consistent. He followed the law. So you don't know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about, and the Bible is inconsistent, and I leverage that when I'm talking to people who believe in it. But you're not talking to somebody who believes in it. Can we talk about things I believe in?
Yeah, we as Christians, we as conservatives, we believe in the value of human life. That's why we want to protect human life, even in the womb, because it's still human life. Okay, and there's a million babies aborted every year.
I don't value the lives of creatures that don't have sentience, and the aborted fetuses that we're talking about don't meet my burden for having rights. So that's where we disagree. So you're religious, I'm not religious. Is
okay, you sound like Hitler. He said the same thing about Jewish people, but this is still human life.
Well, no, but that doesn't apply to
Jewish, not Jewish. It's still human life.
Do Jewish people have sentience?
They do have sentience, even.
Then my argument does not apply to Jewish people.
But they don't have sentience when they're under anesthesia. They don't have sentience prior to 26 weeks.
They are still a person who is capable of sentience and has been in their life capable of sentience, and that's not true of an aborted fetus.
Okay, you can come up with whatever arbitrary standard to.
It's not arbitrary.
To determine human value.
My standard for ethics is not arbitrary, like the rules in a book that are inconsistent from 2,000 years ago. My standard
that you haven't read,
suffering.
By the way, which you haven't read, but you're saying it's inconsistent because other people have told.
I read the Bible.
Then why didn't you know that Jesus followed the law?
I would like for you to answer my concern.
You didn't know that. You didn't know that he respected the Roman soldiers and told his disciples to back off.
I don't care.
So you didn't read that. But you're saying it's inconsistent. But
do you remember every word of something you read like more than a decade ago?
No, I don't. But I wouldn't speak authoritatively on it if I didn't.
I mean, you can't speak authoritatively about literally anything. Like I could pull up the Bible on Google. I could scroll to some random page. I could give you the number and say, what's the quote? And if you didn't get it, then I could argue that you don't understand the Bible.
Well, of the many tens of thousands of verses, you're right. I wouldn't be able to recite each one off the top of my head, but I know enough. I've read the gospel enough times to know that Jesus followed the law. And
Vicky
you tried to point out an
inconsistency. Vicky sent me a $3 super chat just to point out that you.
Why do you interrupt me every time?
Because Vicky sent me $3 on YouTube super chat to point out that you can have sentience under anesthetics, which I did actually know that. I just didn't really mention it. But again, What are we talking about, RC? Like, what is this?
Okay, so
what do you want?
We defend human life because it begins at the point of conception. Could you agree to that?
Nope.
Okay, well then you disagree with 96% of biologists in a PubMed study. It was like 6,000 biologists or so. So you're disagreeing with the experts in the field that human life begins at the point of conception.
I think that the point of conception is too difficult a moment to pin down biologically to make the blanket statement that life begins at conception. So no, I don't co-sign the statement, but I do believe that human life begins at some point. I also just don't value the moment that human life begins because that's not when the capacity to suffer begins, which is the only thing I care about.
So you're disagreeing with experts then?
You just asked me that question. I just answered it. I'm not going to answer it.
Okay, so you, as not a biologist, are disagreeing with expert biologists determining human life begins at the point
Vicky
of
sent me $3 on YouTube Super Chat to point something else out to you, which is that Genesis 2:7 says that life begins at first breath, which doesn't happen until 9 months after conception.
Do you make arguments or do you let people make arguments for you?
If they,
you're not engaging with what I'm saying.
I let the donors, sway the show a little bit if they send me money. I allow that, yeah.
Okay, so you're disagreeing that experts determine life begins at the point of conception. Human life.
I already answered that.
So so I don't know what. Yeah, you answered no. Yes, you disagree with biologists. I thought we're following the science.
I don't think I do disagree. I don't think I do disagree with biologists. I think that the biologists themselves would recognize that it's more complicated than that. But because you value this moment of conception, you put like such a magical gold star on it. But what the biologists tell us is that there's something like 100 little biological steps that each could be called the moment of conception. So I'm more careful about how I talk about it than you are because that's what the biologists do.
Well, at the moment of conception, you have a unique genetic code separate from the mother. Mm-hmm. Your sex is determined. Your hair color.
Yep, that does happen. That does happen when the sperm and the egg meet. That's true. That has nothing to do with suffering, which is the only thing that I value, which is why I'm so bored
you're a
by this
unique human being at the point of conception. That's my argument. You are a unique individual.
Cool. Has nothing to do with suffering.
Has nothing to do with
Thank you, Katie, for the $5 on YouTube Super Chat. He said, Katie says, if he valued life, he would be against government abuse and the push of removing whites from anyone not white, straight, and male. Yeah. A bunch of if you valued life in the way that you claim to as a Christian, there's a bunch of bad shit the government's doing you should be concerned about. But I know you're not actually a good Christian.
Yeah, like Kamala Harris supporting an agenda that's only going to benefit black men.
Can you pronounce it correctly? It's Kamala.
Can I get a sentence out without being interrupted?
I won't interrupt you if you pronounce it correctly. Say what you had to say about Kamala Harris again. But can you try again?
Harris had an agenda for specifically.
I want to hear it. I want to hear RC say it properly. Kamala.
No.
Kamala.
Okay. So Harris had an agenda, an opportunity agenda for.
Kamala, please.
Are you a child or are you an adult?
Kamala, I wish you won the election so I didn't have to fall asleep in all these cabinet meetings. Kamala.
So you can actually engage in a debate. You've lost every point that you've made.
Oh my God, he thinks I lost. Oh no, my career's over. Nobody, stop sending me YouTube Super Chats. I won't, you guys, I'm going to be able to pay my bills with money from talking to RC if you do that. Don't do that.
You care more about the money as a socialist or do you actually care about making good arguments to debunk what I'm saying?
I'm not a socialist, and I really take the conversation much more serious when the caller.
So why don't you engage with the substance of the argument instead of crashing out like a child?
Okay, can you recognize the fact that nothing that happens at conception is important to me because I'm not religious and I value suffering, not whether or not a person's genes
I was talking about the opportunity.
Excuse me, you were very upset about me interrupting you. Why did you interrupt me the moment I actually tried to engage?
Because I brought up Harris's racist agenda for the opportunity agenda of black men.
No, I'm going to go back to something that happened earlier in the conversation that you refused.
Sure.
I'm deflecting back to the thing that you deflected away from. I just want to make sure you understand my position, which is that I don't value anything that happens at the moment of conception or around it because I'm only concerned with suffering, and suffering can't happen for the baby until months later.
It can't. Okay, so you think at the point of suffering, an abortion should be made illegal because it's a valuable human life, right?
Elective abortions that don't have to do with medical safety or incest, yes.
So in the event that a woman intentionally unalives that sentient baby inside of her, she should go to prison for murder.
If the baby is sentient, yeah.
She should go to prison for murder.
I don't know if murder would be the right charge. Probably, yeah.
Probably?
That's very late in the pregnancy.
No, it's like 24 weeks is the point of sentience or something.
I'm not going to trust your unless you have a source, I'm just not going to trust you saying that. It is a little muddy. It's a little muddy. Well, you're also sure that God exists, so I can't really take anything that you're sure of seriously as an atheist. But just, it's going to be a problem in general. But again, I have to say all the time, like, we don't know. There's no magical light bulb that turns on where somebody, like some ultrasound tech, can be like looking at a lady's belly and go, oh, look at that, the sentience light bulb turned on. Like, it is a little.
So how do you know when sentience begins?
We have neurologists that use fMRI data, functional magnetic resonance imaging, to assess when neurological activity that that we believe to be capable of supporting consciousness and suffering. We look at when that's happening, and the line's a little blurry because we don't understand consciousness all that well. But there's a real long part of the pregnancy where we're really sure that none of that's happening because none of the structures that we know are responsible for those things exist yet or have electrical neurological activity happening in them. It's very complicated, all this stuff, but I do happen to be reasonably educated.
So you're saying that at the point of sentience, let's just sake of argument, let's say we could.
Chat's backing you up. Chat says you were probably right, somewhere 20 to 24 weeks.
Interrupt me again. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty much right about everything I've said so far because I've actually researched the topics.
You're right about that one thing.
At the point of sentience, you're saying that it's bad to commit an abortion because suffering can be experienced.
Mm-hmm.
All right, suffering can be experienced with a pig and a cow and a dog.
I feel real.
Is it just as bad?
Well, I do value.
What's the difference then?
I'm trying to answer. You've interrupted me twice since I started trying to answer your question. Can I answer your question?
I'm listening.
Okay. First of all, I do value human sentience over animal sentience, but I do value animal sentience, and I'll be straightforward with you, RC. I feel great, deep moral conflict about the fact that I eat meat. I think I might become an ethical vegetarian because I think there is a good argument there, and I think in the past, there's a time long ago where it was sufficiently obvious that we needed meat as humans to survive as a civilization, where it was okay for us to make the sacrifice to value human sentience over animal sentience, but I think we've gotten away from that time, and I feel an immense amount of conflict. One of the things I'm really excited about now that I'm getting so much money from my donors is that I can afford a more expensive diet, which I care about because I really value my fitness. So I'm looking into vegetarian ways to get the amount of protein that I need to get in a day. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel great conflict.
So you understand that there's a difference. There's a moral difference in suffering from animals to humans.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference maker is that you're defending human life. That's the difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just suffering that is bad. It's human life.
I feel the conflict about animal lives that I do because I know they can suffer. So it remains consistent. But I do have conflicting feelings about that. I think we need to be better as a society, and I'm excited to potentially be better as a person and become a vegetarian. I'm kind of struggling with that with my own life right now.
Well, then you're defending pro-choice because it's not suffering prior to sentience, but it's actually not suffering that you're defending human life suffering, to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you using suffering as the metric when it's actually human life that you determine to be valuable? That's the metric.
No, you made a sneaky little change there. Even if we're going to say that it is human suffering that I value, it still is suffering, whereas you just quietly erased the suffering from it and went back to human life, which I don't value.
You don't value human life?
Not inherently, no.
Okay. That's
like if a person's brain dead, they're metabolically. I don't value metabolic life. I don't value the fact that the cells are doing their metabolic thing and like the body temperature is 98.6 or whatever. If a person's brain dead, if the doctors are sure that there's no chance of saving them, I support unplugging them because I don't value human life in any inherent way, and that person no longer has the capacity to suffer. Only their family does, which is why we let the family choose to unplug them.
Okay. The other thing that the left commonly says is that people on our side don't...
I love the way you're just moving past all this shit I have good answers for. It's so fun. What's next?
I think that we've fleshed out the abortion topic. I've said my side. You've said your side.
Yep. My position is consistent and based on biology, and your position is inconsistent and based on an inconsistent book from 2,000 years ago. Moving on, right?
No, my position's very consistent. So...
Just like the book you worship. Very consistent. Moving on, then.
It is. And I've showed how it was consistent, and you were wrong about Jesus not following the law. So, talking about inconsistencies of the many that the left has, you guys are like walking inconsistencies. You support the idea that a male can be a woman.
Yeah.
Right. So, you think gender and sex are two separate things.
Mm-hmm. I think gender is a social construct, and biological sex has to do with what chromosomes you have.
So what's the difference between a man and a woman without using sex?
Without using biological sex, what I'm arguing is that we don't use biological sex. We just go by the social
So what's the difference
gender.
between a man and a woman?
It's the social construct we put around gender.
So you must have a social construct you put around it. What is the difference? What's the meaningful difference between a man and a woman?
I think that there's a societal construct that exists around what we expect a biological male or biological female to be like. And some people, a small percentage of people, have an experience that's inconsistent with that. I can't relate personally because when I look down, I like what I see. I'm pretty happy with the body that I was born in.
I said you can't use sex as part of this difference maker because you said that gender and sex are two separate things. So it should be very easy for you to illustrate the difference between a man and a woman without using sex.
One can still be predicated with facts about the other. Like, I do recognize that they're related topics.
But you should be able to give a meaningful difference between man and woman.
I was giving a meaningful explanation, and you interrupted me because
you used sex. That's part of the question. You can't use sex as the difference maker.
So I can't use sex if I'm defining the word sex, but I can use the word sex if I'm talking about the difference between sex and gender.
But I didn't ask you the difference of sex and gender. I asked you what's the difference between a man and a woman. Without using sex as the social.
Well, I have to use that because they're related. It's arbitrary for you to say I can't use that word in my description because I do believe that the social constructs of gender are predicated on the biological differences between males and females.
Okay, so you have to use sex as part of the difference. So gender and sex are interconnected, and you can't separate the two.
They are interconnected. They are interconnected.
You cannot separate the two.
That doesn't mean they're the same thing. You're making a leap when you say that.
No, what I am saying is there is no difference between man and woman without using sex as the difference maker. So the only difference between men and women
I didn't say that sex was the difference maker.
So what is the difference maker between men and women?
Okay, here's an example. Fire trucks are usually red.
Not an example. What is the difference?
I was already answering that, and you interrupted me and said that I'm not allowed to use
try to use human beings. I don't need an analogy. Just what is the easy?
Just interrupting me, dude. Every time I open my mouth, I'm not. I was given a nuanced answer, and you cut me off because
you're going to ask me something about fire trucks. And
I was going to get an analogy. I know people who think the way that you do struggle with analogies. Do you want to hear my analogy? Do you want to show my audience that you don't struggle with analogies?
I'm just asking. Can you answer the difference between a man and a woman?
You know what?
I'm just gonna. I'm actually gonna. I'm gonna.
You don't even know what I was gonna say about fire trucks. Do you want to hear the analogy or not? I'm gonna kick you if you don't want to hear it. I'm not interested in you destroying my arguments before I even say them.
Yeah, sure. Let's hear the analogy.
Okay. What color is a fire truck usually?
Red.
Okay. What's another vehicle that's usually a color? What color is a police car usually?
I don't know, like white and black or something.
White and black. Let's go with white and black. Okay, so if I paint a police car red,
right?
Okay, is it red or is it black and white?
It's a red police car.
Ah, yeah. And if somebody who transitions from a man to a woman as a male, they are still male, but they're also a woman.
But I define woman as an adult human female, so they can't be.
I don't define it that way.
You need to be a female in order to be a woman.
Okay, so you define, so that'd be like you arguing.
Are you a trans man?
That'd be like you arguing that you define what color a police car is by whether or not it's a police car.
No, it's more than that. Are you a trans man?
No, I'm a cis
So what's the difference between you and a trans man?
A trans man would have different chromosomes than me.
Is that it? So it's a sex difference, in other words.
Well,
it's a biological difference between you and trans men.
Well, no, because if it was just the...
You just went to chromosomes. That's a biological difference that you illustrated between
the
you
other
and trans.
The other detail is that you said that they're a trans man. So so when they're a trans man, I can say that I know that I would have different chromosomes from them, because for them to be a trans man, they would have had to have been born with female chromosomes, which they would still have.
Not necessarily. You have intersex people.
Yeah, there are some oddball exceptions that don't really relate very much to the trans argument. Correct. Probably. They would probably have female chromosomes.
Okay. So the difference, when I asked you between you and a trans man, and you went straight to biology, which is the logical thing to do, because that is the only meaningful difference between men and trans men.
I don't think that that's true.
So what is the other difference between you and trans men?
The difference is that I identify with what is considered by society, because gender is a social construct, to be the normal configuration, which is that my gender identity is in alignment with my sexual chromosomes. That's not the case for a trans person. That's the difference.
You just went back to biology. Why are you guys trying to separate sex and gender when it's all connected?
I'm not. Yeah, but they are connected. They are just not the same thing. You are arguing
they're inseparably connected. That's my point. You cannot
that doesn't make them the same
apart.
thing. That doesn't make them the same thing. The paint is on the car. That doesn't mean that you can't change the color of the paint. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you guys are trying to change the car as well.
I mean, the fact that you're
trying to convince us that
you're so stuck on this.
You're trying to convince us a police car is a bicycle.
I'm just trying to convince you that if you paint a car red, then the car is red. That's all I was trying to convince you of.
Yeah, that's like a woman painting her hair blonde. Now she has blonde hair, but it's still a woman. You guys are trying to convince us that now it's actually another sex. That's like saying the police car is now a bicycle.
That's what you guys
are doing.
Don't accept that that's a good application of my analogy.
I think that's a more apt comparison because you're radically now changing.
That demonstrates how bad your thinking about all of this is.
Okay, when I asked you to define the difference between a man and a woman, if you ask me, I'd say one's a male, one's a female. I ask you, and you need to give a police and fire truck analogy.
No, I gave you a different answer that you didn't like, and I'm sorry that the answer is more than 2 or 3 words. Gender is a complicated topic. Lots of big words you might need to understand to have a really nuanced understanding of it. Why is this so important to you, dude? Why does it matter?
Why it matters because if trans people that are identifying however they want were just living their life and not trying to redefine words and get employers in trouble with the state.
You're the one who's trying to redefine words by going against what
I'm telling you the problem.
No, the experts disagree. I immediately found something wrong with it. And I do this thing where I do cut you off on my show if you say something that's bullshit. And you've done it from the beginning. You're sitting here trying to redefine words because the experts, doctors, biologists, sociologists, psychologists, early childhood development experts, all of them disagree with you about the difference between gender and sex. And you're just sitting here forcibly trying to redefine the word gender to something that the experts disagree with.
I'd be happy to debate any of those experts and get them to tell me the difference between a man and a woman without using sex. I'd love to hear their explanations of that.
You're just you can say that you're not allowed to use a word when you define that word, but you are allowed to use other words when you define words. And sex is not the same word as gender. You are allowed to use the word sex when defining the word gender.
But when you're saying that gender is separate from sex, and
thank you, Melanie, for the $5 on Venmo. I so appreciate you.
You know, this makes you look bad.
No, I don't do it. I don't do it with the other guests. I do it with you because I don't respect you.
Because I'm smarter than the other guests.
Melanie says RC needs to stop using debate lives as a form of therapy. Wait, I'm going to say it again. She says RC needs to stop using debate lives as a form of therapy.
I'm smarter. I'm better. I'm stronger. You need me. You know who that is?
Are you suggesting I need you?
No, I'm suggesting I'm Homelander. That's what I'm suggesting. Kidding. Right. Just kidding.
No, I don't need to watch The Boys. I watch American politics.
Yeah.
Anything else before I let you go?
Well, you've interrupted me at all points of this conversation. You've been wrong about every point. I'd be embarrassed if I was you, honestly. Like, this is the best that the left has.
If you think I'm the best, I appreciate the compliment. I don't think I'm the best.
Well, give me someone better. You said that there's experts in gender studies or whatever. I'd like to debate any of those experts. They'd crash out.
Yeah, they're busy doing important work for the world. They're not interested in talking to you. That's my job.
They're important.
Yeah, they had to go to school, get a bunch of fancy degrees and shit. I didn't do any of that. I just read a bunch of books.
Yeah, so they can defend mentally ill people and enable mentally ill people.
Oh wait, Raven's here. I'm gonna let Raven take over the call with RC. How you doing, Raven?
Is this a trans woman?
Hi. So I just have a quick point I wanna get out, and then I gotta get going.
She's gonna drama dump or he or whatever. I don't know the sex of this person.
It's funny that you put those projections on me, even though you don't know me. But anyways,
are you a trans woman?
I'm a trans femme.
So you're a male.
Yes.
Okay, that's all you had to say.
You are the one asking questions. Do you have a point?
You requested.
Yeah, and then you asked some questions. Did you have a point for those questions? You interrupted me.
My point is that you're a man, and you want us to call you a woman.
I actually didn't ask you to call me a woman.
Oh, okay. So, all right, fine.
Don't jump the gun, dude. Just a point of advice, RC. It makes you look really bad on a panel if you assume what the other person's going to say and then attack them for it. Sometimes I do that and I really call it out where I say, I think what you probably believe is this. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But when you just like, expect what's going to happen, it just makes you look like an asshole.
It really does.
This person has she as the pronoun on their profile.
They.
So
also they.
Yeah, so you do want to be referred to. She
doesn't necessarily mean woman.
Oh, she means man. In this backwards world that we live in with the left, she also could mean a man.
It can mean male, but that's because sex and gender are different, and that's the point I've come up here to make. If you want to get to the point.
Does anybody else feel like we're living in?
Do you want to get to the
crazy,
point or not?
Like weird backwards world right now? Like, what are we doing?
I mean, I have to deal with you, and Jesus
your pronouns are she, they. Literally, what in the F is that?
Are you able to focus on a point, or am I making you so upset that you're just going to crash out?
I'm really upset. What, you haven't made a point.
Yes, because you keep being stupid.
Okay.
Can I get to my point now?
You become a they when the moon comes out, and like she when the sun comes out?
Oh, back to stupid. You took like half a second. Are you ready to focus? Are we going to be a good boy?
When you speak in your real voice, and you stop trying to sound.
You want me to speak in a deep voice with that?
There it is.
Shut the fuck up.
There we go.
Yes, that is my comically deep voice. I have a wide range. Congrats.
There we go.
So, can I get to my point now? Or are you going to be a good boy?
Oh, brother.
Oh, sister.
No, I'm a man though.
I'm not so sure about that at this point.
Sack sent me $5 on YouTube super chat and says,
I mean, at least one good one.
Sack wants me to ask Mr. Values All Human Life how he feels about Republicans floating the idea that homosexuals have no place in America. How do you feel about that, Robert Collier?
That was weird. Are you just like gonna dox me? What was the purpose of saying that?
You're an author, no, Robert?
Oh, so we're doxing? I have like 400,000 people on Instagram. You want to play this game?
So why are you worried about your name being?
Do you want to play this? You want to play this game?
You wrote a book, dude. I know about your book.
A book that I took off like years ago.
You want to play this game?
Wait. No.
We're gonna play this. You want to play this game?
Why'd you take it
off? You literally put the info out there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
dude. Your info's out there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've had a right-wing group try to dox me.
All right. Okay, we're playing this game.
So
you want to try to dox? No, that's what you did. That's what you just did there, right?
God, you're such a man-child.
I mean,
Sabrina Carpenter wrote a whole
because it's the left that tries to get us killed and doxes us and then laughs and then mocks us when we're killed. So you want to play this game?
It's public knowledge.
Have you seen the way that
your account belongs to you?
I'm just saying, you want to play this game. You want to dox. You think that's so funny.
Can you just shut the fuck up for like half a second so somebody smarter than you can speak?
You dox, but we can't say the F word on Pride Month.
It's your name, dude. My name's up here too.
We're playing this game.
Well, I platform hateful people on my show, so I would allow you to use slurs, even though like it's terrible. TikTok doesn't allow it.
Got it. Okay. No, I'm just making sure.
Mr. Manchild, if you can't shut up for like 5 minutes, then you have a small dick. Ready, set, go. All right, so my point with sex and gender being different is that back in like when the country was founded, the idea of a man, like your stereotypical man, was going to be somebody wearing literally high heels, dresses, makeup, and a wig. If you were to put that exact description on a person nowadays, you would expect that to be a woman. So gender changes, it's fluid throughout history. Even if you want to talk about in the present, ask two different people what a good man is going to look like, and you're going to get two completely different answers.
Yeah, and that time period, like George Washington's time period, was there not feminine attire?
Can you shut the fuck up for 5 minutes?
Wasn't there feminine attire at that time?
I think the small
Were the men dressing like women at that time?
In like the 1700s, yeah.
No, so they were dressing like the women at that time?
Women today.
No. That's not the question that I asked.
Right, and I'm
the
saying
women at the time, were they dressing like that?
Gender literally changes throughout history. That's my point.
You're not answering the question. They weren't dressing like women at the time.
They were not dressing like
men and women are two different genders. Women and men had different stereotypical presentations back then.
But you're trying to say that men dressed like women at that time. No, they dressed like men at that time, and they were not dressing like women of that time.
But the presentation
so your point is moot.
Throughout the years.
Point is moot.
You know what didn't change throughout the years? Male and female.
No, there's a difference today is that you guys are saying it's okay for a man to dress like a woman today.
You're not even listening.
I did listen to you. You said that they wore wigs at the time, they wore heels at the time, but they weren't dressing like women.
And then you go into the red herrings and assuming you're trying to put dots together that I'm not making.
All right. So your point was moot. You tried to make a point, you tried to have a gotcha, and it fell very flat.
You actually fell into my point when you said that men and women have different presentations at the time.
Correct. At that time, men dressed differently from women. They did not dress like women.
Because they are different genders.
Yeah, but the difference is today they're trying to mix the two. They're saying that men can dress like women today. They can dress in female dresses.
You're still conflating the two to be the same.
Here, hold on, Raven. Sorry for interrupting, but I am just letting the donors interrupt the call because it upsets RC. Yeah, because Jesse, who sent me $5 on Venmo, wanted to ask RC if he had a friend named William, and that do you get mad at William for wanting to be called Bill, or do you just call him William even though he wants to be called Bill?
Are we doxing my friends in real life now too?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you actually have a... Yeah, it was a hypothetical. I don't know. Maybe you have a friend named William that you just doxed, but I don't know, man. Like, writing a book is... I think that associating a person's like online personality with their name isn't really doxing. I think that like private information like your address or something would be really nasty to put out there. I wouldn't do that. But you wrote a book that yielded some very fascinating Amazon reviews, and I don't know why you're so ashamed of it.
Before RC starts crying again, I do need to get going. Do you understand my point, Oscar, and can you carry it forward?
I'm sorry, I was a little distracted by all these Venmo donations. What were you saying? I'm sure I can pick it up. I know a lot of your
gender presentation has switched throughout the history.
Yeah. Because
even though that they have different gender presentations, they shift throughout history, and even in present time, you can ask two different people, to define a gender, and they're going to give you two different answers. So therefore, it's fluid even within present.
Yeah, actually, Damien, who just sent me $5 on Venmo, had the same point. He said you can even go back to the 1980s, go up to a man wearing a midriff shirt with short shorts and call him feminine and see what happens, because that was a pretty manly way to dress just in the 1980s.
Crop tops and short shorts. Yeah. But anywho, I do got to get going. So do you want to drop me?
Sure thing. Thanks so much for hopping up, Raven.
Bye.
Yeah, what do you think?
Carry forward that moot point that men didn't dress like women during George Washington's lifetime.
I guess my whole point is that I just don't understand why you give a shit what these people do.
Yeah, that great question. Do you actually care to know the answer why I care?
Well, after I read this $10 super chat from Gen X girl who says Christians like RC think they have a moral compass for us all. They simply are afraid of their own sexuality. Everybody can see it but him. I really agree, Gen X girl. What were you saying, RC?
Is the insinuation that I'm like a homo?
I think that the insinuation is that you're not secure in your sexuality.
Because I disagree with a male being a woman, I'm not secure in my sexuality.
Yeah, I think that the amount of attention that you pay to this issue, which you just further minimized and inaccurately described by talking about male and female when we're not talking about people switching from male to female, which nobody says is possible. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it does suggest to me.
So I believe males can only be men equals I must be gay. Because that makes sense.
No, that's an because I didn't accuse you of being gay. I accused you of not being secure in your sexuality, and you took that as me accusing you of being gay because you're not secure in your sexuality.
What does that have to do with my sexuality? What does my opinion about a male only being a man have anything to do with who I'm attracted to?
Well, I think they were talking about you generally because you also are homophobic, right?
Oh, okay. So they're actually weaponizing homosexuality to use it as an insult, ironically enough.
We're just pointing out that people like yourself are generally not very secure in their sexuality, and you're really only proving it by getting all upset about this line of questioning.
I'm upset by the line of questioning?
Well, hold on. Katie sent $5 more on YouTube Super Chat and said, is RC triggered because his wife left him for a trans man? Is that what happened to you? That's Katie's question, not mine.
Yeah, my wife left me for a trans man, sure.
Was it because you wrote that book?
Yeah. Do you know what the book was about?
I can only judge by these Amazon reviews. According to the Amazon review, it was an incel's liquid fever dream. It's giving Walmart Alex Jones meets Aldi Andrew Tate with a sprinkle of Dollar Tree Joe Rogan. 0 stars. I'd love to read it. Can you send me a copy?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with politics, actually. So they just flooded the reviews because they don't like who I am. It had nothing to do with politics.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, why'd you take it down? If these are inaccurate, then people could read it and then check.
I took it down because it's a book I wrote before I started making content. And then I realized these devil leftist people are so disgusting and evil, which you prove to us on a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, why do I even have this up?
But why do all of the reviews mention you being an incel? What was the book about?
The book was about how to do a business deal and how to analyze people before doing a business deal.
What was the thesis statement of the book? How do you do that?
Playing a game with them, Monopoly, pool, whatever. The protagonists like to play pool.
I think maybe I can see potentially, I'm speculating a little bit, but I can see potentially the angle that these people were taking when they called you an incel for wanting to have a play date in order to get a business deal.
Okay, sure. It's just the left is so hateful, so extremely hateful, and then you project it onto us. You think I bother trans people out in real life? I only talk about this because people debate
is real life,
online.
And you were mean to a trans person not 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, okay, because that person insulted me. So, like, immediately called me stupid, called me other insults. Like, yeah, that's how that works.
Oh, Damien sent me another $5. What does he have to say? He says, incels and groypers are the wimpiest men in America. I agree, Damien. Thank you for the $5 additional on Venmo. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. He called me a groyper?
He just said, see, again, this is like you falling for the projection traps. He just said that groypers are wimpy, and then you said he called me a groyper. Is it because you're wimpy or because you're a groyper?
Oh, I got
it. That conclusion.
He said RC and groypers. Right. So Oskar and pedophiles are both disgusting people.
I don't think that's what he said.
No, but I'm saying to you, Oskar and
he said incels. He said incels and groypers, and you misheard when he said incels.
No, he said RC and groypers.
Maybe I misspoke. He said incels and groypers, the wimpiest.
Oh, I see. Got it. Mm-hmm. I think pedophiles and gay people are some of the most disgusting people in the country. But I'm not saying they're the same thing.
Thank you for. I know. I already knew you were a homophobe from our past conversations. But I mean, you think that they're in the same group as like the most disgusting people. So you are a homophobe.
I think LGBT and pedophiles are both equally as morally corrupt. Yes, but they're not the same thing, though. Definitely not the same thing.
Okay, they're definitely not the same thing. I agree about that. Melanie, for another $5. What does she have to say to RC now?
Did that go over your head?
Melanie says that RC is birth control in human form. Thanks for the... Oh, the message is cut off, but thanks for something. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate you so much. I think it's a demonstration of your character that you put homosexuals in the same, like, level of terribleness.
No, that was an analogy. It was an analogy.
I don't think it was a good analogy. Also, I mean, you're talking about something that one of my random donors said. Like, you're not even... Like, I'm not even going to sit here and defend it. It's just what the donor said. Oh, did he leave? He left. Goodbye, RC. Did one of the mods remove him? Or did he get kicked or something? I don't know. That was a particularly fun round of fucking with RC. What a sad individual he is. Everybody, if you enjoyed the conversation, I shouldn't even give myself a commercial. You guys were lighting up the donations during the call. Normally I wait until after the call. But if you want to support what I'm doing, link tree in the bio for pay links and all that stuff. Love you guys. We're going to talk to Mountain Man. We're going to see what type of individual he is after he tells us how old he is. Did somebody kick him? I wasn't looking at the screen. I was looking at the donations when it happened. Hello. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Ooh, lots of background noise and you're very quiet. Do you have a Bluetooth device connected?
Yes, give me just a second.
Yeah, just disconnect that. So I'll take another moment to remind everybody you can go to the link tree in my bio. 100,000 followers combined, I think. I'm pretty sure. Yes, definitely 100,000 because it's almost 100,000 just between Facebook and Instagram. Really, really loving the support on the other platforms, guys. It's huge. And hello again to everybody over on YouTube. I got to remember to take a look at that chat. Gen X girl over there said that RC crashed out. He sure did. He didn't like that at all. Liam says, Oscar, what the fuck was this? That was RC. Is this just an insult fight? Sometimes when we're talking to RC, it does devolve into that. He is unfortunately good for the show. Whatever. He's going to go be hateful elsewhere. Gets really upset when people bring up that book he wrote. But whatever. Anyway, Mountain Man, are you there? Are you still muted?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me better now?
I think a little bit. How old did you say you were?
I'm 36.
Are you a Trump supporter?
I'm not. I'm actually a mental health professional.
Do you have something to say about RC?
A little bit.
Let's hear it.
This is actually a really good talking point that I've started bringing up with people when they talk about sex and gender, especially with people who bring up that, like, especially people who think that the definition of gender is an adult male, adult female, is have them define sex in a way that includes the entire population with zero crossover.
Oh, yeah.
Because a binary, by definition, has zero crossover. And if there is any crossover, that makes it a bimodal spectrum. And if sex isn't even a binary, gender definitely isn't.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, like when I have those more nuanced points, they tend to just like not even engage with them because it's just.
Oh no! That's why you make you don't define it. Make them come up with the definition.
I know what you mean. I'll try that. I'll give that one a try as it comes up.
Because they'll try, and then you give the exception, and then they'll try again, and eventually they'll give up and realize that they're an idiot.
Well, I'll check it out. I am going to kick you for the driving because I'm pretty sure you're driving and the chat has pointed that out to me, even though I'm not always totally strict about that depending on the call. But anyway, we're going to talk to Nothing in Common. And we're going to see if this is going to be a good debate. Maybe not a hateful person. I would love to have a debate with somebody who's not hateful, but a lot of Trump supporters are hateful. How old are you?
I'm 18. I didn't mean to join, but I love your content, bro.
I appreciate you. Have a good day. Nobody in the queue, which means if you're over here on TikTok, you have a responsibility to the show to get double tapping away on the screen to get pushed out more on the For You page so we can get some new people in here to talk to. Man, does RC threaten to dox everybody who like mentions that he wrote a dumb book? I would love a copy of that book. If anybody has a copy of RC's book, please message me. Alex sent me $5 on Venmo and says RC agrees that gender stereotypes like clothing can change, but sex cannot, meaning gender is an independent thing of sex. Why can't we figure that out? Yeah, literally, gender is like a label that we put on all of this societal stuff. That often, yes, has to do with sex, but there's no telling him that. The book's not available anymore, so I can't just go buy it. I think I would make the sacrifice of giving RC a few bucks if I could get a copy of his book. But please, if somebody has a fucking copy of that book, I want it. I want it bad. Let's see. Do we have any opposition in the chat? Is there any arguing going on or Tiffany's upset at me, apparently. Tiffany, invite box. Let's see. Can we get Tiffany to chat? I don't even know what Tiffany's saying about me, but people are saying that Tiffany should get up here. Tiffany, you've been invited. You should see an option on your screen to join the call. And, if you're reticent, you just saw me deal with somebody who I already hated when they joined the call. I really am much nicer than that most of the time. RC's a monster, just so you know. I'm not the bite everybody's head off type of guest or type of host. RC has earned it many, many, many times. How you doing, Diallo?
Hi. Full transparency. I clicked on his box because I hate that motherfucker, and I wanted to make sure I still had him blocked, so when I went live, he wouldn't show up on my live. So I hit blocked, and I think I blocked him from your live because I forgot I was a mod for a second.
Yeah, that's probably okay.
So you can unblock him if you want to, but that was totally by mistake because when somebody's in the box, I don't ever do that. I leave it up to the host because I can't stand when somebody does that to me. So I'm just being full transparent. It really, truly was an accident, even though I absolutely loathe him with my entire soul. I was just blocking him for myself, forgetting for a moment that I was a mod for you and that it would block him from the live. So you can unblock him if you ever want him to come back.
Yeah, maybe. But we'll see.
I truly did do it out of complete and total accident. Like I wasn't doing it because I would never block somebody that's on your panel.
No, I think I might call that one a happy accident. I think I might channel my inner Bob Ross as I assess your misdeed. Let's call that one a happy accident. Ashley sent me $1 on Venmo just to say indigenous people have a trans community as well. Yeah, I mean, they're
called Three Spirit.
They just, these callers just want to deny the human condition of people who aren't like them. That's fundamentally the thing that's in common with all of their beliefs about everything, is that they don't value the suffering of others if it's not relatable to them, which is how you end up with people like RC. You want to stay on for a random call?
Two Spirit. Yeah, Two Spirit is what they call them in the indigenous community. And if I might, and you can certainly do what you want. I'm just telling you as an experienced creator, he is an extreme danger to women and to this country. And I don't think he should be platformed. And I'm just going to be honest with you. There are very few creators that will platform him anymore because he is a very, very dangerous individual with his rhetoric. And I certainly would never tell you what to do. I'm just telling you it's really, really bad because the way he treated Raven, the way he lumped them in with pedophilia is absolutely fucking disgusting because it's already something that a lot of people believe. And it's extremely dangerous rhetoric because the LGBT community is so targeted right now, especially transgender people by this administration with not only their laws, but their rhetoric, that I find it extremely, extremely problematic to give him a voice.
I'm conflicted about it. I'm conflicted about it because at the end of the day, that's what we do all the time is platform people who are monsters. But I know that he's a particularly skilled weaponizer of rhetoric who spreads these really bad ideas. I would be interested in more opinions about that from more people than myself. I might do a poll on keeping RC banned because he is a problem, but I guess what I feel like I'm doing here is that, Oscar in a conversation with even the biggest piece of shit on the planet is still a conversation worth watching because I make pieces of shit look like the pieces of shit that they are. I don't think that RC looked good in the call today. And I think that means I accomplished more than he did. But it is conflicting because a lot of people agree with you about that. So I don't know. I'm conflicted about it. Thank you, Will, for the $5. Also, RC the Cut Groper as a shitty author and a terrible, quote, person. Thank you, Will.
He specifically does go around to larger creators and people that have larger platforms so he can get his message out there to more people. And I think it's dangerous. But that's just me.
Yeah. I'll sit on it for a while. I'll keep him banned for now, though. Because if that was his final time on my show, I'm happy with it. He was upset.
If you want to do a perma-ban and you want to be sure, put a bounty on his head. If everybody collectively sends $100 right now, you'll perma-ban him. People will do it. They do it on mine all the time. They'll ask me how much to perma-ban this person, and one of my mods will just throw out a random number, and I get it every time. So, just saying.
Is today the day I become a pure grifter and I let people pay me to make up my mind? That's grifting.
That's not grifting?
I don't know. Well, no. I mean,
people don't want to hear from him. They'll pay up. If they don't, they won't.
That's true. And Vic sent another $3 on YouTube super chat to remind us it's Two Spirit because you had it wrong there. Spirit of a man within a woman. Yeah. Thank you, Vic. Appreciate you so much. That's democratic capitalism. Democratic capitalism instead of democratic socialism. Obviously, when I use the word grifter, I don't actually mean literally that I think that would be grifting. It just does, allowing. I don't know.
You can make a poll. I literally, just because they started doing it on mine, I've never had that on my live ever. And someone says, oh my God, how much to ban him? And one of my mods is like $100. And so literally within 5 minutes, I had $100. I'm like, oh, okay. They really didn't like that guy.
Okay. I'm gonna, you know what? I've decided that to be so dirty about it, I'm just going to have to be even dirtier. Because I'm so conflicted about RC. I don't think $100 would do it, but $200 might do it. I think if I add up the donations that say ban RC on them and they add up for today's show and they add up to $200, I will permaban him from my content because I am on the edge about it. And every time he calls in, I think I do a really good job of making him look really, really bad.
You have to look at it as crowdfunding, not grifting.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it's grifting to have him on because he's so damn good for the show. People love watching me talk to that guy because he's so
I know, but it's really dangerous rhetoric.
It is dangerous rhetoric.
And I am just telling you I'm going to be transparent that I'm not just a creator, but I'm a mother of a child who's part of the LGBTQ community, who has been talked about and demonized by my own family. And I find that it's extremely dangerous. Adults can typically handle it, but there's still children that are dealing with it as well. And I just think it's really horrible. And not that children are listening, but I think letting that narrative be perpetuated is especially harmful. But that's just me.
Well, and like, even though I just kind of like feel differently maybe about some of the reasoning of it, it just weighs so heavily with me that so many people like yourself feel that way about certain callers, RC being one of them. Because there are other callers where there's like, I think I'm good enough at talking to RC that there's some benefit in me talking to him, where there are some callers, like elchicotech.edu just got banned yesterday. He's permanently banned from the show because he has moved from just being obtuse because he's an obtuse person to being obtuse except for when he gets it, and then he's willfully obtuse, and that makes him useless to talk to. So he got the ban for that. Correct. Which is a functional thing for the show. It's not even about him being a terrible person, which he is. But I mean, almost everybody who I want to call in is a terrible person. So I'll weigh it all. I'll weigh it all very heavily. And I appreciate the donations. Thanks for letting me run the grift on RC, everyone, because it's. Yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I leverage the show being entertaining, which gets people wanting to watch it, and that gets eyes on the important conversations. So there's like an ethical consideration around all of it. But I really am open to public opinion on RC. Even if that means... Connie in
the comment section says, and it's $500 to keep RC, so Trumpers need to put their money where their mouth is.
Oh man, I could get rich people if we just had. What if it was $100 to ban RC and then $100 to unban RC? I'd be rich.
A bidding war, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's $100 to ban him. It's $500 to unban him, so that I get more money from the chuds.
I thought that was funny. That was clever, honey. That was clever.
No, well, we'll see. Do you want to stay up for a call, or should I let you down?
I'll stay up for one call. Then I got to get ready for my show because my show starts in about 40 minutes. So.
All right, we're going to talk to Michael Unmuted, who's going to stay unmuted unless Diava mutes him because I don't use the mute button on my show. But
I believe he's a friendly.
Oh, is he a friendly? Well, we were kind of already getting to that point of the show. I keep looking at the clock and thinking, oh my God, why is it past 2? Because I'm so used to doing the show from 10 to 12 Central Standard Time here on TikTok Live. But I had my other job this morning. Michael Unmuted, how old are you?
36.
36, are you a friendly?
And I am a friendly.
That's okay.
I am also do my own. I do find you extremely easy to listen to. I'm a huge fan. I came into you when Law of the Wild was on your panel, and I'm a huge fan of him. I'm also a fellow Minnesotan.
Howdy, neighbor.
I work in Minneapolis, but live in the suburbs. And you were talking about, banning people. I agree with you that there is content to it. But I think with some people, it gets to the point of being a little too much. So what I did, I don't know if you know Tyga. Do you know the caller, Tyga?
I can't stand that guy.
Yeah, so I perma-banned him. We crowdfunded $1,500 was the goal. We made it all the way up to 19 and change. But to do something good with it, I did a live shopping stream where we donated everything to a food bank in South Minneapolis.
Oh, love it. That's lovely.
I think we've raised almost, it was like 19 and change. And it was good for content. We did something good with his bad name.
Yeah, so. that might be fun. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do some charity drives, like great idea. Even though Chico Tech is banned now, I'd love to rub it in his face because he's always telling me that I'm not, I'm a bad person for not feeding kids with my donations, even though I'm still working on feeding myself. Thank you, Shannon, for the $1 on Cash App. Shannon has voted with $1 to ban RC. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, it's it was a good. It was a really good feeling doing it. I enjoyed it. Got some good pictures on it.
Yeah. The chat. I hear you, chat. If we do it for RC,
send it to Planned Parenthood.
Okay, wait, no. So we can. I already made the offer, and I don't want people to say I'm going against my word. So I will just say that I'm gonna stand by my $200 ban. But maybe people watching can spread the word. I don't usually ask my audience to go spread the word to other debate hosts, but we could come up with a group of debate hosts and say that if we crowdfund this amount of money, all of us will ban him forever, and we could donate an enormous amount of money to an LGBTQ plus charity, which would make RC very, very upset. I bet it would be more money than he made selling his book.
So I would definitely listen to anything you wanted to do. I am a fan of yours.
All right, yeah. I mean, Gen X Girl on YouTube Super Chat just sent me $5 to say people like RC are dangerous. A Christian fundamentalist unalived my gay friend in Loring Park with a pew pew in the back. Look up Joel Larson's murder. Yeah. Joel Larson murder. We're allowed to say murder on the show. I appreciate you censoring it for the message. Gen X Girl, I'm gonna write that down. I will look into that case. I'm very sorry to hear that happened. And yeah, I'll and you know, you've casted your vote for banning RC because, I mean, I guess the thing is, it's the great conflict of what I'm doing. These people are dangerous. The question is the world made a less dangerous place by Oskar talking to them in public? That's the question I have to answer about platforming people, and I'm genuinely conflicted about it because RC is dangerous, but I also I take a little bit of pride in what I do, and I think I am really good. What happens is people call in, they say, I have this idea I want to share with people. I want to go on Oscar's panel. I want to explain it to him. I want people to hear what I have to say about it. And I make their idea look bad. That's what happens on the show. And if your idea is a bad and dangerous one, that's the conflict. We give it airtime, but we make it look bad. So like, you know, and if it's, I don't know, RC is arguably the most monstrous person I have ever crossed paths with potentially one example accepted, which is the person who admitted to rape on the show. By the way, we caught him, everybody. Caught the rapist. The victim has his confession. God. We got him. Up to her if she goes back to the police, but we did catch the rapist from episode 15, so you guys can stop looking for him. I know his name. Anyway, but I'm gonna keep the details on that one private because that's all in the victim's hands at this point. Hold on, Joel Larson. Let me just make sure I get this name down. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's interesting, deplorable stuff to learn about RC, but I'm not really interested in a doxing campaign other than pointing out that he wrote this very silly book. Because I just, you know, I think if you're out here sharing your opinions, like your name being out there is kind of part of it. He goes by his own initials. Like I just don't consider it doxing because I'm not for doxing. It'd be doxing if we said where he lives or what his job is or something like that. But
he told us he wrote a book. He said he it's not the first time he's told people he wrote a book. He used to brag about that stupid book until people started going on and writing what an incel he was and gave him such bad reviews that he took it down. But he basically told everybody what to look for. So because his name is on the book as the author, he doxed himself.
It's out there. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it'd be like if somebody found an old video of mine and like showed it to me, and it was like maybe a video where I was like not as skilled at debating or something earlier on, and I was just like, oh yeah, don't stand by what happened in that clip. I was doing a bad job there. That's not doxing me. I put it out there. Like, it's just, you know, you just got to be. When I was young, when I was a kid, when I got my first like big boy computer, which was a laptop, a black MacBook that I got from middle school, which was like a big purchase for the family. My dad took me into his bedroom where the internet router was, and he pointed to the router and he said, "What is this?" And I said, "That's the internet box that we have to unplug and plug back in when the internet's not working." He goes, "Okay, cool." So the internet comes in through this cable, and he points to the coaxial cable going into the back of the box, back into the back of the modem, and then he points to the wall where the cable goes into the wall, and he said, "Do you know where it goes when it goes in the wall here?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Neither do I. You are fucked beyond this wall because I don't understand it and I can't help you. So anything that you do on this computer that goes to the internet goes down this cable through the wall, and I love you, son, but I can't fucking help you if you fuck up in that way because I don't understand it. I don't know where it goes. So just be fucking careful." And that was my introduction to the internet when I was a child. My dad gave me that lesson.
That's a good explanation.
That has always stuck with me. So like, you know, when I'm exactly the age where like a bunch of people when I was in like high school were being really irresponsible with things like nudes, which is not legal if you're not 18. And I'm sitting there thinking about the cable going into the wall like, guys, you think Snapchat is secure? What is wrong with you? It was like a scandal in high school when people realized there were apps that could save Snapchats. And I'm like, yeah, you doofuses, you sent it through the wire in the wall. Of course somebody can save it. You don't understand where it goes. It goes to a stranger's computer. That's where it goes. So that just always stuck with me, and I've been on the internet constantly since I was a teenager, since I was a kid. And that lesson that my dad gave me is, I think, one of the reasons that I can sit here now, a public personality on the internet. And I'm just not that worried about it. I just don't think I ever did anything all that dumb. I'm sure if you found my Call of Duty YouTube videos from when I was a fucking teenager, I'd be embarrassed by some of the dumb shit I said. But like, kids say dumb shit. But it would be embarrassing, not canceling. It would be, who is not sad that we 30-year-olds are the right age to have had our blunder years on the internet? But
I'm Gen X. None of our youth was captured on anything.
Yeah,
Thank God.
yeah. So anyway, I listened to my dad, but I think I'm gonna kick you guys and take some more callers because even though we were, let's see, what time is it? Yeah, we got a half hour. We got lots of people in the queue.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Thanks for hopping up, Michael. Nice to meet you.
Are you from Minneapolis? Are you from the city area?
Yeah, I'm in Minneapolis. I'm a close neighbor of Alex Preddy's, but I grew up in New York, but I've lived here for 10 years.
I'm from Jersey. Just moved here, but I'm going to shoot you a message. Law and I have a plan. Probably going to go out to one of the breweries in the area. Love for you to come with us.
Yeah, I would love that. I gave you a follow, so I'll see your message, and me and Midwest are buddies. So absolutely, I'd love to have a beer about some of this stuff.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm gonna kick the.
Have
guests.
A good one. Pick me.
Thank you guys. Thanks for hopping up. How wonderful. Let's see. I have a Cash App for $1. V says, for may I shamelessly promote my anti-Trump merch. Not for $1, but for all the other donations, V, of course you can. You can put whatever you want in the chat. That's Miss V Marie in the chat. V Marie has promotion privileges because V Marie really seriously supports the show. So yeah, please go ahead. You guys can see that in the chat, and I'll call it out if I see something worth calling out. If I hope she's still here. I hope she's listening. Anyway, Portland is going to enter the call, and maybe this is a debate. How old are you?
No, I'm not a debate. I'm sorry. I thought you were ready to take a friendly calls, but you can drop me down if you're still looking for a debate.
I'm still looking for one more debate today. Oh, is it? Hold on. No, Vicky in the chat. Different V. It's not V Murray. It's V Marie. We have a person over here on the TikTok chat who is V Marie, but she's one of the higher level donors for the show. So I give her. She can break the rules on self promotion. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, and you know what, Miss V Marie, you shoot me that link in a private message. I'll throw it out in some places so that people can take a look. I'll give you some free promotion for some anti-Trump merch. But everybody can go check out in the TikTok chat. Miss V Marie has her anti-Trump merch, and I'll let her have the promotion because she's a donor. That's a sponsor. I hope the merch is good. Evan the Rose. No, you were up earlier. I'm gonna ask you to. I'll have you stay on because you were up earlier, and I know you were friendly. So I'm just going to mute you, but I'm going to see if Sudeep is a oppositional caller, but that's also a username that I recognized from the other day. How old are you?
I'm 27.
Are you a Trump supporter?
I'm also friendly, but I had a different perspective on the conversation you were having earlier. I just wanted to share.
Well, the queue has emptied in a quick hurry, so I'll allow it. What's up?
Yeah. I was, so just a bit of background about me. I really enjoy debate. I think it's I used to do high school debate and find it a interesting way to get different perspectives. But I'm one of those leftists who think cancel culture might have been the wrong way to go about things. So when we talk about platforming, I kind of think of it like even within these tiny little enclaves in our online spaces, when we try to censor people, it really lets these ideas fester outside of these online spaces.
Yeah, I'm pretty conflicted about cancel culture myself because I consider myself something of a free speech advocate.
Likewise.
Yeah, and that puts us in something of a point of conflict. I think honestly, my audience would probably be surprised to hear Oskar not through a TikTok filter. I work in comedy bars. I'm a producer on some shows here in Minneapolis. So not only do I platform some pretty off-color humor, I tell some dirty jokes when I'm on stage, like it's jokes I just can't get away with telling on TikTok just because I'll get auto flagged, but also for what I'm doing on this show, it would kind of be just a little not productive to like hear my dirty dick jokes or whatever. But I think that people maybe expect me to be more. I think people expect me to be a little bit more woke in the way you're describing because they only see me on this show, when in reality, Oskar Quentin, the guy out on the street, like, might tell a seriously offensive joke about all this important stuff that I talk about. I just don't really do it here on the show. But at the end of the day, I platform monsters. So, the topic today is do we platform RC or do we cancel him? So, what do you think? What do you think about a caller like RC?
Yeah, specifically about RC, like, I understand his rhetoric is very dangerous. He's like wants to vilify a whole community of people during Pride Month. It's pretty crazy. But the idea that we can cut these people out of the conversation entirely and that it will just go away because of that is kind of illusory to me. It just doesn't make too much sense to say that by deplatforming them in our limited capacity, these narratives will somehow wither away. And I think these narratives continue to grow and fester within other rooms, other spaces, unless we bring them out to light, unless we are able to challenge them like you do in real substantive ways, rather than just shunning them on the basis of like, I think these are still real ideas people have in their heads and continue to have until we challenge them out in the open and publicly. And choosing to dismiss them is counterproductive to that effort.
Yeah, I think that I agree generally. I just see there to be sometimes an exception, because I do think you're right that we just tell. There are so many people who don't even like the debate space at all. They think that what I'm doing is bad. They think that what Dean Withers is doing is bad. Don't give these people your attention. Don't give these people your time. When the reality is, most of the people who call in have drank the Kool-Aid and they are convinced they are right about this stuff in some logically consistent way. And it is valuable to put a spotlight on that and show just how wrong they are. But those people aren't individually all that dangerous. Whereas with somebody like RC, who I don't actually think is drinking most of his own Kool-Aid, I think he knows he makes bad arguments. I think he knows I make good arguments. I think that he is weaponizing those bad arguments in a way that's effective. He's like a car salesman. The car salesman is good at what he does. It doesn't mean you should listen to him about what a good financing plan is. That's not a thing you should trust him on. He's a fucking car salesman, and RC is a hate salesman. So his arguments are socially effective in a way that I'm good at defeating on my show. But whether or not giving somebody who so intentionally is weaponizing bad arguments an opportunity to put them out there might just be bad. But I think we could talk about the same spectrum for everybody else. Somebody who's not skilled at debating maybe shouldn't take calls from Trump supporters. Maybe they are doing bad for the world, because if you're not able to refute these arguments, you are just platforming these people. But we all got to learn how to debate somehow. I just happen to be a person who did it before I ever made a TikTok account.
Sure, yeah. And I think,
sorry to steamroll a little bit, but I just got to shout out the donors. I got to shout out Vicky over on YouTube for another $7, who says, cancel culture is the consequence for your actions. Comedy is completely different. It's the context that matters and how many people you reach. Absolutely. It's all context driven. And I'm trying to, I guess I'm sitting here trying to understand the context of my own show, because I am conflicted about, there's probably about half a dozen callers I'm conflicted about for the same reason. And RC is sitting on top of that shit Sunday.
Yeah, totally. I think he's less of the disingenuous sophist than you might think. He might be like skilled at presenting his arguments, but I do believe he fundamentally believes like all of these ideas, because I've heard these same talking points from so many others on other lives. You know, these are very dangerous rhetoric, but it still exists out there. So pretending it doesn't exist is living in your own little echo chamber, so that you don't ever get, confronted with the wide variety, like plurality of arguments, even though if it's a terrible argument, that are out there. And unless people hear those arguments, I think they're not going to be able to think clearly about their own beliefs. And they're just able to dismiss them as a demon or a devil. I heard him calling liberals devils or demonic or whatever. And like so many people on the right think that way. And it just creates this increasing political polarization that and tribal affiliation that makes people like turn off their brains. Critical thinking is out of the window as soon as we label them as like people who must be demonized, deplatformed, canceled, thrown in jail, etc. Like,
well, I mean
once it transfers into speech, from speech acts to actions, like he goes out and like harms someone materially, I think that's a totally different thing. And like a lot of people were celebrating Charlie Kirk, for example, for being a terrible platform and like, him being murdered and celebrating that and everything. And again, I know a lot of people stand on that side, but I'm still under the, like, these two people are RC and Charlie Kirk are very harmful individuals in the ideas they represent, but by shunning them into their right enclaves, you strengthen that side and their unity more than I think you help the left side. And like, it becomes like everyone gets into their own room and echo chamber, and no one is able to create that kind of cross dialogue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree that there's this danger in just exiling anybody who voted for Trump. I take real offense to people on our team who say that if you voted for Trump, you're irredeemable, go fuck yourself. Because I think it's an egocentric position to think that everybody's perspective on this is good enough to say that if you vote for Trump, it means you're irredeemable. Because what the leap they're taking is that you must have, in full understanding of how bad a Trump administration is going to be, voted for him anyway. And that's just not the case for most Trump voters. I genuinely don't believe that most Trump voters are that bad and that irredeemable. I just think they're real deep on that Kool-Aid. They're real fucking brainwashed by Fox News. They genuinely believe that a vote for Trump is a vote for America or whatever. And Katie, thank you for the $2. Katie says, but it's not like Oskar hasn't let him talk. I don't know who you're talking about. Him being RC or who? I don't know. But it's just that argument doesn't quite work for RC, because RC is just such a rare case. He's such an unusually monstrous example of a person that if he is exiled, it's like, all right, like, we also exile serial murderers by putting them in prison forever. So like, some people we got to exile. I just try to operate with open arms most of the time. And thank you so much, V, for sending me. I was joking because V sent me $1 and I said that's not enough for a promotion, but V has sent me many dollars, so I said of course you can self-promote, and she sent me $75 on Cash App to thank me for allowing her to promote. So V, get that link back in the chat so everybody can go click on it and buy your shit, because I really do appreciate the support you've given the show. You're a big chunk of why this has been able to be functional. And Michael, who was just up, also voted $50 for the RC ban. Thank you so much. Oh, and it's from one of his viewers, Nikki73. So thank you, Nikki73. That puts the RC ban vote at $57, if I'm not mistaken. I think I was counting correctly. I'll double check that. But anyway, thanks everybody for making the show work. It's fucking huge. Sorry for interrupting. Got to thank the donors though.
No, yeah, all good. Yeah, I guess on a broader meta point, I've kind of like I watch these debates, you, Dean, other debaters on TikTok, and I'm just like, I'm kind of growing more and more disillusioned with the idea of debate as like not a. It seems like it's becoming this winner takes all, like I'm gonna dunk on you and you're gonna be like shamed publicly kind of thing, rather than a real conversation with two people. And I understand that for RC. Like RC is like, you don't treat him with a level of respect that he does not afford to other people. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, and how debate as a idea has maybe become tainted by these engagement platforms like TikTok, Twitter, who are really there for clicks, right? They're there for ad revenue, and that's what gets the money in your pockets and all these debaters' pockets. Yeah.
It's a super important question. Like whether what we're doing is just like purely for the grift or whatever or not. Because I've talked about it even today that I have to balance if I'm going to be entertaining or like productive. Whatever productive might mean. Maybe productive is educational. Maybe productive is because I'm literally changing a mind. I'm actually changing the mind of the caller. Or maybe productive is this indirect way of being productive, where maybe if I'm not being productive for the caller, I'm being productive for all the listeners. I'm giving people the arguments they can use with people in their lives. I have a person in my life who recently asked me if he thought I was really changing any minds. And I looked at him and I said, I changed your mind, because this is a person in real life whose mind I changed over the last year about the Trump administration. He was never like a big time Trump supporter. He just didn't recognize what was going on was a serious problem. And because I had told him every step of the way what was going to happen in Trump's administration and how bad it was going to be, he came to me a few months into it and said, okay, I believe you. Like, what, tell me again what the big concern is, because you obviously know what's going on here. So I see value in that, but I recognize that for any individual debater, not everybody's going to solve that equation in a way that I approve of. I think that if I'm going to risk saying it in public, like my biggest criticism of people like Dean or some of the other like large ones is that they'll, in order to have that sort of following, in order to get that sort of concurrent viewership, in order to get that many followers on the various platforms, you really do have to maximize a particular type of call that is mostly entertaining. And and that to me is not the equation. I don't think I'll ever be as famous as Dean for that reason, or at least not as successful at this particular medium as Dean, because I will have 500 viewers and somebody will call in and there'll be somebody who speaks slowly, who's maybe kind of on the fence, and I'll have to explain some basic stuff about civics or Trump to them. And that's not entertaining. There's no dunking. It's just me helping a person understand what's going on. And that to me is so valuable. I don't care that the viewership falls to 200 people from 500 people. I think, oh, thank goodness I had such an entertaining call with RC or some dumb fuck. And that made it so that there were enough people watching that a lot of people got to see this really, really productive call, even if a bunch of people left for it. But I can't stop those people from refusing to watch a productive call. I can just try to engineer a situation where they might. And I'm just navigating that in a way that's true to my ethics, because this is an entertainment program at the end of the day. People pay me to entertain them. That's the business model of this show. Along the way, I'm trying to do some education. Along the way, I'm changing some minds. Along the way, I'm doing the best I can to arm my audience with the understanding of these issues that they need to make their own good arguments for the people in their lives. And that's the thing I sit and lay in bed and dream about is how many people are having that difficult conversation with somebody in their life where they're armed to speak articulately about it, not by regurgitating the words that I've said, but because I try not to be too repetitive on this show. I try to use unique arguments for as much stuff as I can. They're armed with an understanding of the subject matter that makes them good at arguing. Because that's the biggest weapon in a debate, is truly understanding what you're talking about, not just remembering the talking points, which is how I try to run the show. So I can only defend myself on it. That's my big long-winded thing. I don't think that what Dean is doing is bad, though. I want to add that on there, because even though he's solving that equation differently, I said a second ago I'm not going to get 5 million followers probably without adopting his strategy. Maybe the quality of his debates are lessened by the fact that he uses that strategy, but he's cranked up the quantity, so he's getting viewed by more people. Maybe I have him to thank, because so many people, he has so much reach. The platform shows him to so many people that it creates people who want to watch the Oskar Quentin show because they're interested in some of this nitty-gritty stuff that Dean Withers won't platform, for a reason I totally get and respect. So we're all part of the same discourse space, where if you're interested in political discourse, maybe Dean Withers' reach got you paying attention, and Oskar Quentin's nuance is where you learned all this weird shit about biology or whatever I might talk about on any given day. So I think above all else, we're all on the same team, and I don't think they're doing any harm. I don't think there's a good argument that people like Dean or the big ones are doing anything that's actually bad. I just think, yes, they could operate more productively, but they'd have fewer viewers. So just got to balance.
Right, yeah. I'm glad you're able to make that distinction between a productive conversation and entertainment or theater, because sometimes it definitely becomes theater when you're like clowning on people, but then other times you're very open, right? And it's really nice to see that perspective. And I do want to think about the idea of changing minds, quote unquote, because I know you mentioned you change your friend's mind or your relative's mind. And I think that works really well when you're like in person, and this is like an interpersonal relationship with someone that actually respects you and cares what you think. I just think these platforms like TikTok, they're inviting like a very vocal minority and subset of people who are out here to fight, who are out here to spew like all kinds of stuff, and that is their prerogative. They're not really in the mode of my mind is going to be changed. So I'm kind of thinking, is there some other platform outside of TikTok or YouTube that doesn't engage in these like engagement bait tactics, or is that just kind of what we're stuck with?
That's the tragedy. By the way, thank you so much, Eileen, for the $25 on Cash App. She says, "Keep on keeping on." I'm going to keep on trying. We'll see if I end up getting deplatformed by somebody. I think that we are stuck with the fact that I'm stammering and stumbling over this because it's so much bigger than just your question. Because I was devastated to have to make a TikTok account when I started doing this, because I hate TikTok, because I hate this platform. I hate what it's done to people's attention spans. I hate the way engagement farming has ruined media and literacy for people. I think it's an emergency what's going on. But it's a little bit like how I hate capitalism, but I got to pay my bills, so I ask people for fucking donations, even though I wish I didn't have to do that, because it's the only way that I can do this. So I think fundamentally, if we're going to look at what's wrong with free speech, it's that there was a time where standing in the town square did the trick, but now the town square isn't a public place anymore. TikTok is the town square. YouTube is the town square. Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Kick, whatever Twitter, these platforms are owned by private entities. So I, as a person who top down can look at this, have to make an assessment of like, all right, I'm going in to do battle with the TOS of each of these individual platforms, because there is some shit I would love to say as Oskar Quentin on the internet. That is shit you are only going to hear from me if I'm standing in person, because I got to protect these fucking accounts. But I'm very worried about some stuff that's happening in the country that I can't talk very clearly about because of TOS. And I do have those conversations. I don't hide those opinions. It's not that I don't want the world to know that that's Oskar Quentin's opinion. It's that I simply cannot say things that are violations of TOS on these platforms. And there are ways in which they all have the same TOS that I just can't talk about certain beliefs I have. So I am trying to very carefully understand the beast I'm fighting when I come on here and talk. And if that gives me enough popularity that I get to platform myself, if I get to say, go to OskarQuentin.com and we'll talk there, because I can say whatever I want on OskarQuentin.com. Shout out to the fan who parked that for me the day it came up on the show, and I was like, oh no, I should have that domain before Twitter gets it. OskarQuentin.com is owned by me. Thank you. Thank you to that viewer. Anyway, it's a real serious problem that we all need to be aware of. It's a real serious problem that we all need to be aware of. There is no free speech anymore. If you want to talk to millions of people, like I was saying earlier in the show, I reach millions of unique accounts a month on my platforms now. I can't do that yelling out my damn window. I can't do that yelling it from the street corner. I have to be a player of the game, even if the game sucks, and the game is to get views on fucking TikTok. I think that America and the world generally is due for a reckoning in how people engage with technology and media, and I have lots to say about that. Too much to say in the 5 minutes that remain of today's show.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big problem, is my bottom line.
Yeah, I just wish there was some alternative, But I think the real alternative that you kind of brought up is that kind of in-person organizing, where you have this website domain and you're able to communicate with your local community and organize in that way. And I think that's I know you talk about electoralism and, voting in the midterms is important. I'm a harm reduction voter myself. But I'm still a leftist. I still understand, I'm anti-capitalist. I know there's limits to electoralism. So
see, and you're the reasonable leftist that I wish would call in, because I think that you realize that if I'm going to call myself a liberal and you're going to call yourself a leftist, there's a blurry line that sits between us. because I don't think either of us are happy with the Democrats. And you just said it yourself. You recognize that voting blue is harm reduction voting. That's why it's so silly when people call in and say, why do you love Democrats? And I'm like, why did you ask me that silly question? I fucking hate the Democrats. Like, most of them that are currently elected fucking hate their guts. They're not as bad as the Republicans is why we should vote for them. And I sit and talk about that all day long, but you get it. Right. I had a long conversation with an in real life friend of mine yesterday who's I think also a little farther across that blurry line than I am, just like you. And it was a super productive conversation because I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to use what he said as maybe an example for what you think. So stop me if I'm mischaracterizing your position. I think that you probably recognize that you and me want the world to be in a pretty similar way. We might disagree slightly about some of the practical ways to approach that, but we both recognize that for now, for what's going on right now, it's important that we vote in the midterms blue. Am I on the right? Am I on the right page? That's why it bothers me so much when people call in and they want to spend 45 minutes arguing about exactly how blurry that line is.
I know. Yeah, it gets real messy because that is a mechanism question. I think if we understand our values are the same, we can reach across that aisle a lot better. Or not even the aisle. It's a blurry line, at least between you and I, but I'm extrapolating that even across to conservatives, where they might believe in, personal safety, but I have a different version of what safety and public safety looks like. They have ideas of, private property, and I have other differing ideas of property, but, I still want to be able to communicate with them, have shared values, and then start the discussion at that point.
Yeah. And I honestly, I'd want to keep it towards the end of the show just for those reasons we were just talking about, because I have to run the show in a way that it gets promoted. But I'd love for you to call in more and we can talk a little bit more about it, because that blurry line is important. And I'll say this to kind of button the conversation. Some of those things that I can't quite say online because it's dangerous for my accounts are maybe some discussions about maybe how that line's not so blurry, or places where I think maybe it should be crossed. Because fundamentally, my issue with the leftist position versus the liberal one is that you're necessarily arguing for like going around the system. If you're not saying, if you think the system's that broken, what are you recommending? A rebellion? Are you recommending because if you're not interested in the Democrats or in the Republicans as they are, you're either interested in some third party ideology getting pushed, which is another way to use the system to get what you want. And a lot of people aren't talking about that. And if you're not talking about using the system, you are talking about overthrowing the system. And there's a provision for that in the Constitution. It's on the Bill of Rights. It's the second right on the Bill of Rights, is that you are in fact allowed to overthrow the system if it's unfair. Touchy shit. But I occasionally say things like I stand by Alex Preddy, who when he kicked that taillight, I think he was exercising his Second Amendment right by kicking that taillight. And I'm not talking about the gun that was on his hip. I think he was operating in the spirit of the Second Amendment when he decided to do that good trouble. Because who fucking cares about a goddamn taillight at the end of the day? So it's very fucking messy. It's very fucking complicated. And I at the end of the day, it's not as though I'm being somebody that I don't want to be on the show. It is true, all the things I say about voting blue. It is a harm reduction vote. And I very much appreciate you having a nuanced enough understanding of my position to not just accuse me of being like a Democratic dingbat who doesn't like understand your position. So I think I do generally understand the leftist perspective. I just, trying to reduce harm here. And right now that means telling people to vote blue in November.
Yeah, I think you're in the here and now, and I think that's important for elections and voting. Leftists really try to think about the future, what comes next after we elect these Democrats. How do we organize outside of these systems that are in place to keep the people in power and break down those systems? And I think that's an open question leftists are discussing in their little circles, but right now it's not in public contestation or ideation about what that looks like. If you ask 3 different leftists what a revolution is, you're going to get 3 different answers. So I think it's still an open question. Yeah.
Hey, leftists who watch my show, this is how you fucking talk to me. Thank you. Because you're right. That's the concern. Each one of the problem is that most of those 3 leftists, 2 of the 3 leftists wouldn't even acknowledge that the other two have different definitions. They would just assert that theirs is right. And that's the problem I have with the discussion, is that every leftist that calls in, most of them, not you, most of them that call in have some concrete thing they think they're completely right about. And it just makes it impossible for them to talk to, because they'll say a sentence where 3 of the words in the sentence need to be defined in some careful way. And they're like, what are you talking about? These are basic terms. And I'm like, yeah, to normal people, not to a liberal discussing nuanced politics and potential like government revolution with a leftist on TikTok Live. Like, we got to be really careful about this stuff. And if we're not, the conversation just isn't productive, which is why I don't like platforming those people. Anything else before I let you go? The show is ending.
Yeah. Just one quick point on that topic of,
sure,
seeing the nuance and seeing the 3 different sides. Just to throw the last bit of theory in there, Hegel, Marx, they talk about this idea of the dialectical. And I think that is an imminent critique as one of these methods to take tasks to power. And I think the dialectical is the method we need to take. And it involves being aware of all of the different ideas, the plurality of ideas that are out there in the space, and then not just choosing your own because you think it's right, but seeing all the sides rather than, being stuck in your own way, stuck in your own echo chamber, that kind of thing.
It's a shame the word for that is so tainted by people who practice holistic medicine, because the correct word term that you're looking for here is to have a holistic worldview, to take in all those perspectives and consider them all in your perspective of how the world is. But the term's very ruined by the holistic medicine people. Because they're
epistemic and humility in general for like your ideas and where your ideas come from, I think is a necessary ingredient in having these conversations. Otherwise, you're just stuck in your way and you won't engage in critical thinking. You're gonna ascribe by your tribal affiliation, and you're gonna get the backlash effect or backfire effect, where any sort of non-conformist idea, you just feel like is an attack on your whole identity, and psychologically that just breaks you down. You're not going to be able to think critically about the subject at all. And I think that's a well-studied psychological phenomenon. I don't have the exact citations on me right now, but it's something I think about when I think about debate and these very identity-centric politics we have today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sure I'll hear from you again. Thanks for hopping up.
Yeah, take care.
All right, that was Sudeep, everybody. I'm going to call him a friend of the show. And I'll take a couple moments before we end the show to talk about a couple things. First of all, the $2 from Katie over on YouTube Super Chat. She says, sorry for the typos. Vote blue for human rights. Yeah. If both parties are bad, find the ways in which they're different and vote for the party that's not as bad. That's the Democrats. And then also, Vicky has a question that I actually like getting once in a while, because I am actually a big proponent of the person that she's talking about. She says, have you said your opinion on James Tellerico? I fucking love that guy. I'm not religious, and I'm generally highly critical of just religion and religious people generally. I don't think religious arguments for things are good. So when I look at somebody like James Tellerico, who is a Christian, he's a Christian Democrat in Texas who's running for Senate. He's what I call a good Christian, which is that if I were in a religion debate with James Tellerico, what I would say to him is that because I don't think your religion is sensible, and I don't think that the book you read to get your religious beliefs from is actually a good book, there's a bunch of horrible stuff in there. I'm sorry, James. I just think you're a good person. I think that you read the Bible and are preaching the good parts of it because you are at your core a good-natured person. So I'm excited to say that Texas has a good-natured person running for their Senate. And if you live in Texas, you should vote for James Tellerico, because he doesn't take PAC money. He's really concerned with the struggling American people, poor people, lower middle class people. Middle class people these days are fucking poor because of the cost of living. So he's really concerned with fixing a lot of the problems that I have. I don't think he's brave enough to call himself a democratic socialist in the way that somebody like AOC or Bernie Sanders does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he does. But I think he's in a similar neighborhood in terms of what he actually wants for people. And I think the history books will tell of James Tellerico for flipping Texas blue. He's not running for governor. He's not running for president. So it's not going to be this race that does it. But I think socially, in terms of people seeing that the Democrats actually want to support the things that everyday working class Republicans actually want, better cost of living, better safety, better law and order, they act like these things that they actually care about. I think James Tellerico is doing an incredible job of convincing those people that it is in fact the Democrats offering them those things, even if that's the wrong team for their political blood sport that they've been watching on Fox News their entire lives. So those are my thoughts on James Tellerico. I'm pretty excited about him. Go watch his like Jubilee episodes. The guy stands on business, and he's Oskar Quentin improved. I suppose I am in a position to give proper political endorsements, aren't I? That's kind of exciting. Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye, TikTok. I'll see you tomorrow, not at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's also not Central Standard Time. It's just Central Time because the daylight savings happened. Anyway, Central Time, 1 p.m. in the afternoon in Minnesota is when I'm going to be live tomorrow, and then also Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, those 4 days. Other than that, it's 10 to 12 Central Standard Time every single day is when I do the show, because Thursday next week is my last day of work at the day job that I quit to run this show full time. So once again, thanks to all the donors, and go buy Miss V Marie's anti-Trump merch. There's a link in the chat. Everybody click it before the stream ends. Go, go, go. Okay. Goodbye, TikTok. Love you guys. See you tomorrow at 1 p.m. All right, YouTube. Where's the button for you guys? Stop streaming. Goodbye.